the administration facing public embarrassment and scrutiny from a lot of people in MAGA space, you're saying it's because Donald Trump is such a great American. And she said, not just a great American, but a great Christian. I was like, what? I could not believe what I was listening to. And even the host was like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Yeah, I know, right, guys? So I was blown away. I was literally blown away by the level of, it's not, so now it's a weird, they're in a weird position, at least this particular conversation was, because they acknowledged that the list existed, right? They're acknowledging that the list existed, unlike what Pam Bondi said. I don't know the person's name. I didn't write it down. I didn't have my glasses. I couldn't see anything anyway. I was laying in bed, not sleeping. So they're in this spot now where they acknowledge the list existed, but they basically are saying that Trump's going to fall on the sword for everybody else's name is on it because he's such a great American and such a great Christian. Okay. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. I don't know how we navigate through that shit. Like, that is just wild. So that then led to some other, and I'm going to talk about some perhaps some threads that have not been pulled on this particular story. So we're gonna cover that in a little bit. I want to go back because there's some more information specifically as it relates to certain statements that Ted Cruz has made about the situation in Texas. We're gonna play some sound from that, talk about it. We're also going to talk a little bit more about statements made by the president yesterday as it relates to not only Ukraine, but the fact that he does not know what the fuck is going on in his own administration. But first, so specifically on the Epstein topic, there is a creator. I'm not even going to sure if you're going to call him a creator, but he is has an account on X. Goes under the name. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. If we could crank up that gift, there is a gifting goal. Don't forget, just a rose, a heart, whatever it might be. Please consider joining our team. Let's really push to get to the FYP. We had no issue getting to the FYP yesterday on the backup. Been a little bit more of a struggle here. So hold on. Did we miss it? Oops, hold on. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, guys. There's creator's name on X. His name is Brad T. Faciti, F-A-C-I-T-I. He goes under the handle @BadFaithAct. I'm going to play you some sound specifically first from just to kind of give you an idea of where this gentleman's persons, I don't know his pronouns. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So I'll just say person, where his head is at. Okay. This was the statement he made. Well, let me first play you the sound. So he tagged this video in a post on X. This is, you're going to hear Linda McMahon and Pam Bondi.
Over the past several weeks, the Department of Education has notified the Department of Education in California, as well as the California Interscholastic Federation, that they were in violation of Title IX. They were allowing men to compete in women's sports. Now, this is after years of their being in violation of Title IX. We informed them that if they did not change, that we were going to refer these cases to the Department of Justice, and we have done exactly that.
I'm sorry, did you guys not hear that? Somebody just said they couldn't hear it. Let me just start it from scratch. Sorry.
Over the past several weeks, the Department of Education has notified the Department of Education in California, as well as the California Interscholastic Federation, that they were in violation of Title IX. They were allowing men to compete in women's sports. Now, this is after years of their being in violation of Title IX. We informed them that if they did not change, that we were going to refer these cases to the Department of Justice, and we have done exactly that.
Thank you, Secretary McMahon, for all of your hard work. And today, the Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against California Department of Education and the governing body for women's sports in California. We've made it very clear, only women in women's sports under Title IX. An example in California, a boy who was in track and field. He would have lost every race. Yet in women's sports, he won over 3 dozen medals. Those medals should be returned to the women, as well as no boys will be allowed in women's locker rooms. No longer. We have sued Maine. We're in litigation with Minnesota. We've sent multiple letters. And if you do not comply, you're next. The Department of Education and the Department of Justice, we will protect girls in girls' sports.
Okay, so I shared that with you because this gentleman that I mentioned, hang on one second, let me just get this queued up because timing is everything. All right. I shared that with you because the gentleman that I mentioned, or the person that I mentioned, again, I don't want to misgender, posted this comment, posted that video on his ex account or their ex account, and then posted this comment. Allowing men into women's sports is disgusting. These California politicians need to be removed from office immediately and locked up forever. Imagine if my daughters are competing in the same place as a boy. It is horrible, and I applaud Pam Bondi for this. Okay, that's disgusting enough. So this same person was dragged pretty mercilessly on X because of statements in regard to Epstein that he made, including statements like this. This is in response to a question as to whether or not Trump is on the Epstein list or not. This is really bad, friends, but I'm going to read it for you because I think it just gives you a peek inside of the mind of MAGA. If Trump did that, so again, the statement that I just read, imagine if my daughters are competing in the same place as a boy. It is horrible, and I applaud Pam Bondi for this. These California politicians need to be removed from office immediately and locked up forever on that topic. In regard to Trump on the Epstein list, potentially, allegedly. If Trump did that to my daughters, forgiving him would break me. But Jesus calls me to forgive as he forgave me. I'd need his strength every day. It would be the hardest, holiest act of love I could ever choose, but I would still politically support him as my president. Yes. In addition, the future of our country is too important. It is not wonderful if Trump had schmecks with a lot of children. But as Christians, we need to forgive. And it is good that he is the president, yes, even if he grapes women and girls. Also, he is arresting all of the grapist immigrants and putting them in Alligator, Alcatraz, and CCOT. Even if Trump did this in the past, hypothetically, then he is making up for it now. And then finally, I'm supportive of his politics and leadership as the president. I'm not supportive of the horrible personal activities, but as a Christian, I am obligated to forgive him. There is a difference, and it's amazing to me you people can't understand. So when we have conversations with people in these spaces, right, or wherever it might be, and we remind them of, there are people here who doesn't give a shit if Trump raped their daughter, they would still vote for them. And they're like, well, I don't feel that way. I say, well, you vote with those people. That's an example. That one statement, this is the one that really got me. Where is it? Hold on. If Trump did that to my daughters, forgiving him, that's not even the one. This is this one. The future of our country is too important. It is not wonderful. It is not wonderful if Trump had smecks with a lot of children, but as Christians, we need to forgive. And it is good that he is the president, yes, even if he grapes women and girls. The gentleman's name on X is Brad T. Faciti, Faciti, verified, at Bad Faith Act is their handle. So I want to play a game with you guys. I'm going to use Obama for this experiment. I want you to remove Donald Trump's name and replace it with Obama in every context as it relates to this. It was Obama that was on the Access Hollywood tape. It was Obama that pinned E. Jean Carroll up against a wall and raped her. It was Obama that said he was going to be dating a 10-year-old girl in 10 years. It was Obama who walked into dressing rooms of Miss Teen USA pageant contestants. It was Obama that said he had sex in common with his daughter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was Obama that you saw dancing with young girls at a party organized by Jeffrey Epstein. It was Obama that Epstein referred to him as their closest friend. It was Obama that called Jeffrey Epstein a terrific guy. It was Obama's administration that promised to release the tape. It was Obama's administration that then didn't release the tape. What do you think would be happening right now in Congress? We have the same Congress. We have Republican House, Republican Senate. What do you think would be happening? This is why we tell you you're in a cult. This is why. So the heat is on Pam Bondi because the administration, they're going to do everything, the powers that be are going to do everything they can to, am I wrong about that? First of all, even if there's our MAGA friends in here today, am I wrong about that? I mean, I know you don't, I know you're going to want to try, how do you defend that? Seriously, what's your way out? What's your way out of this one? How do you reconcile all these things that he's done? How do you reconcile the fact that we know that he's on the flight logs? How do you reconcile the fact that we know there's a list? The reason we know that there's a list is because there are people. I'm going to play you quickly. This is Melinda Gates. Okay? Melinda Gates, formerly married to Bill. By the way, I've met Melinda Gates because I wrote a grant on behalf of the Vermont Food Bank to the Melinda Gates Foundation, and she came and presented it, and I got to meet her, and I was impressed by her, and it was great. So anyway, this is what she had to say specifically as it relates to Bill, because there are rumors that Bill was one of the people that's on the list.
It was also widely reported that Bill had a friendship or business or some kind of contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and that you were not, that was very upsetting to you. Did that play a role in the divorce at all in this process?
Yeah, as I said, it's not one thing. It was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him?
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. So, my heart breaks for these young women because that's how I felt. And here I'm an older woman. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It's awful.
You felt that the moment you walked in? I didn't realize
was awful.
that. Yeah. And you shared that with Bill, and he still continued to spend time with him?
Any of the questions remaining about what Bill's relationship there was, those are for Bill to answer.
Okay.
But I made it very clear how I felt about him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we have Melinda Gates, who, as she described it, very amazing how much grace she showed in describing that. Basically saying it wasn't just one factor. So Bill Gates on the list. There's been talk about Bill Clinton on the list. And the difference, one of the many, but one of the fundamental differences between people who believe in the rule of law, for example, we don't have to say liberals or conservatives. I mean, there are people that still believe in the rule of law. Let's separate MAGA because they don't. If that list came out and anybody is on it, I don't give a shit who it is. I don't give a flying fuck who it is. Give them all due process. If found guilty, lock them all the fuck up. You see how easy that is? But MAGA cannot say it. They can't say it. They can't. I don't give a fuck who it is. I do not care. I do not care. We are talking about schmecks, trafficking, crimes against children. The party that claims, oh, you know what? We got to spend taxpayer dollars and energy on keeping boys out of girls' sports. That's something that doesn't happen. But because they're so afraid of trans people, they're going to turn it into an issue that their voters will just salivate over because their voters are bigots too. But no, Trump can't be on the list. He's too much of a good human being and a good American. He's out to protect people. Whether he's on the list or not. And what was that statement from that guy? One more time. I'm sorry. It just blows me away. What is it? Here it is. The future of our country is too important. It is not wonderful. It is not that quote right there. It is not wonderful if Trump had sex with a lot of children. But as Christians, we need to forgive. And it is good that he is president, yes, even if he rapes women and girls. I think that tells you everything you need to know about MAGA. I think this whole exercise, the defense of this, although Pam Bondi's getting dragged, and even some staunch members of the MAGA base I've got some sound I'll play for you guys, are like, what the fuck? They haven't yet come to the conclusion that their boy is on the list. They haven't gone that far yet to say he's on the list. They've come to say, well, we were promised this list was going to be released because they were primed. The pump was primed that everybody that they were told to hate, the deep state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they're the ones that are on the list, but not Trump. So now thinking Trump's in charge, remember this famous sound? Where is it? Remember this? Oh, and I've got more to play for you. Just remember this one.
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Yeah. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because it's a lot of phony stuff with that whole
It's a lot of phony
world.
stuff? Really?
But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
9/11, yeah. JFK, I'm with you. Jeffrey Epstein, yeah. Well, Why would Donald Trump be so circumspect about exposing the secrets of Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire child sex trafficker who died in prison, without revealing which of his well-connected elite friends knew about and possibly even participated in his revolting and illegal activities?
That's the story, right? That's the story. So you can just pray the crimes away. So here's the thing. If you, for those people who claim that, his faith, because you're Christians, you can forgive. So let's just use a recent example, right? Recently, you were claiming that Joe Biden was part of this P3DO ring. And Joe Biden is a professed Catholic, very devout in his faith. Goes to church all the time, talks about his faith openly and honestly. Christian, so you can forgive him too, right? Of course you can, because otherwise that would be completely hypocritical. Of course you would forgive Joe Biden. Of course you would. Of course you would. And you wouldn't care if anybody is on that list, apparently, right? You wouldn't care about anybody who's on that list because you'll just forgive them all because they're all Christians. But unless it has to do with trans kids in sports, imagine allowing men into women's sports is disgusting. These California politicians need to be removed from office immediately and locked up forever. Imagine if my daughters are competing in the same place as a boy. It is horrible, and I applaud Pam Bondi for this. So we don't forgive people for being who they are. We don't forgive parents supporting and loving their children for being themselves. No, instead, and this is the last time I'll read this, I promise, but instead, the future of our country is too important. It is not wonderful. It is not wonderful if Trump had sex with lots of children, but as Christians, we need to forgive. And it is good that he is the president. Yes, even if he rapes women and girls. So the girls that you care about in boys infiltrating girls sports, those girls you care about, okay? Even though what we're talking about is nothing, but yet it's okay. You'll forgive the guy who, even if he grapes women and girls, or even if he had schmecks with lots of children, you're fine with that. That is fucking wild. It's beyond hypocrisy, Jen. I don't even know what you would call it. It's just like, yeah, it's a good point. Boys don't have to control themselves. That's right. So let's sort of close the loop a little bit on this story. I want to. Pam Bondi's facing a lot of pressure. So let's go through the timeline, all right? Because let me see if I can find it first.
Along with his co-defendant.
Not that one. I'm going to try to paint the story here, okay? So this was part of the press conference that she gave. Let me see if I can find the right one. I thought I had it queued up. Maybe I don't. I mean, she talked about the missing minute, and it was just nonsensical, and no one could make sense of it. So in the same press conference, she had this to say, because there's audio now of her making statements. And I'll connect the dots in just 1 second. So this was that same press conference where Trump had to interrupt her and say, "Are you still talking about that creep, Jeffrey Epstein? The creep that you once referred to as a terrific guy? The creep that once said that you and he were best friends?" Okay, here you go. So this is Pam Bondi. Again, this defense is wild. Just listen.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, "It's sitting on my desk to be reviewed," meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow.
Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
Wow.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Euro prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
What the fuck was that? So I'm just going to play the first part for you again, because it's really important, okay?
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, "It's sitting on my desk to be reviewed," meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well.
You heard that sound. Okay. So let's go to the actual interview, because I have that. This is the actual interview that she gave as it relates to that particular topic. This is dated February 21st of 2025. This is the interview that she's referring to on Fox. And then you can tell me what she said.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
The question again.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing.
You want to know how broken brains are, friends? We have a commenter. Their name is Tundra. And Tundra thinks they're flexing by saying this: Play the video where Biden said he would cure cancer. So Joe Biden talking about the cancer moonshot, and Tundra, because Tundra is so deep in the cult, thinks that Joe Biden talking about aspirational goals of curing cancer is the same as Jeffrey Epstein's client list, of which Trump is on with crimes against children. Good for you, Tundra. Thank you for proving our point. Okay, so what do we learn? Pam Bondi, again, here's the question.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now.
Okay, it's sitting on my desk. The list of Epstein's clients is sitting on my desk. And Pam, what did you say specifically?
That's what I meant by that. Also,
what did you say again?
sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well.
Okay, draw your own conclusions. A little bit more sound. This is Pam Bondi again. This is in April of this year, again in response to the list.
This will make you sick. 200 victims. 200. So we have, well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office. What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did, along with his co-defendant.
Okay, if there's 200 victims, allegedly, and Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail for trafficking, who were those victims of, and who did Ghislaine Maxwell traffic these girls to? So I think that's the full picture, friends. And the scrambling that Ghislaine, the scrambling that not the administration, but Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. By the way, where are those guys? Thank you, Swish Raiders. Where are blue hearts in the chat for Swish Raiders, please, guys? Thank you, guys. By the way, where is Dan Bongino? Dan Bongino has never been shot open his big fat fucking mouth. Where is he? Haven't heard a peep. He was one of the people. One of the reasons he was brought in was because of the Epstein files and the list. Exactly. Don said that about Ghislaine Maxwell. I wish her well. I wish her well. Okay, so I forgot there's a reporter named Michael Wolff who did a lot of investigative reporting. Michael Wolff's a good journalist. Did a lot of investigative work into the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. So I've got some sound from that interview. Let me see. I have it someplace. Where is it? So I want you to hear the beginning. The audio is really hard to hear, but you can hear clearly what he talks about in the beginning. So Epstein is talking about, this is for the Fire and Fury podcast. Michael Wolff also wrote a book about this, and I've got some sounds. Wolff, no, that's not true, Paul. Okay, here we go, more defense. So this is what when asked about the relationship between Trump and Epstein, this is what Jeffrey Epstein had to say.
So how do you know this? Donald's closest friend for 10 years.
I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years.
How do you know this? Donald's closest friend for 10 years.
Okay. So is Jeffrey Epstein lying or is Trump lying? We've seen the videos. We've seen the pictures. We know that they spent time together. We know that they were on the flights together. Well, it gets a little bit, we have a little bit more on that topic because as part of the reporting from that same interview, this is what Jeffrey Epstein. This is the text. This is reported from the Daily Beast based on Michael Wolff's interview with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein described himself as Donald Trump's closest friend. You heard the audio. And claimed intimate knowledge of his proclivity for schmecks, including cuckolding his best friends, according to recordings obtained. If you guys don't know what cuckolding is, you can look it up, but it's putting things on display. I'll leave it at that. According to recordings obtained exclusively by the Daily Beast. The convicted P3DO even boasted of his closeness to Trump and his now wife Melania by claiming, quote, the first time he slept with her was on my plane, which was later dubbed the Lolita Express. Epstein spoke at length about Trump with author Michael Wolff in August 2017, 2 years before being found unalived in his jail cell. Wolff was researching his bombshell bestseller, Fire and Fury, at the time. The recordings cast more light on Trump's long relationship with Epstein and will add to debate over the character of the Republican candidate. Again, this story came out in 2016. Recordings cast more light on Trump's long relationship with Epstein and will add to debate over the character of the Republican candidate, especially his attitudes and conduct toward women just days before the election. I'm sorry, this is leading up to the 2020 election. The 2020 election. The tapes tell Epstein's version of the relationship between the two former friends and their very different paths. One toward infamy, prison, and self-unaliving. The other toward power, the Oval Office, and his own criminal convictions for paying hush money to porn star. Trump's camp referred to the tapes released as false smears and election interference. Of course they would. The tape also offers unusual insight into the friendship of the two wealthy, powerful men who frequently went out on the town together, prowling for women in New York and Atlantic City. Epstein painted a complicated portrait of Trump. He called him, quote, charming and always fun, capable of extraordinary salesmanship, and suggested he was personally in favor of Trump's policies on the transgender stuff. But he alleged that Trump was a serial cheat in his marriages and loved to play and fuck the wives of his best friends. He also claimed that while Trump has friends, he was at heart a friendless man, incapable of kindness. And he alleged that Trump had undergone scalp reduction surgery for baldness and called himself the Trumpster. Asked by Wolff, how do you know all this? Epstein replied, I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. Wolff shared the tape with the Daily Beast ahead of discussing it on his Fire and Fury podcast. He caused shockwaves by revealing a few seconds of a separate recording in which Epstein spoke in detail about the inner workings of the Trump administration. Wolff said Thursday the P3DO showed off photos of Trump with topless young women sitting in his lap. A veteran journalist, Wolff, who was the author of Rupert Murdoch. Wolff, a veteran journalist and author who was also the biographer of Rupert Murdoch, has long attracted praise and bromides. When Fire and Fury was published in January of 2018, Trump tried to stop it with a failed cease and desist order, then threatened to sue. No case ever materialized. It sold 5 million copies worldwide. Wolff, who appears regularly on the Fire and Fury podcast, wrote 2 more books on Trump after Fire and Fury about Epstein's 2021 book called Too Famous. So that's pretty telling. Draw your own conclusions. There was a story, then it gets deeper. Okay, so this is why we're talking about this, because I don't know. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to give you everything that we know. Okay, so I'm trying to give you everything that we know as it connects to this, and why perhaps nobody wants this story to be released. A while back, Lawrence O'Donnell had done a story on this. And I think what I'll do is it's a few minutes long. It really helps paint the picture, and he does it in a style that I think is great. So if I might defer to Lawrence O'Donnell, again, people can criticize the source, but he's just citing information. So here you go.
Who said today that he believes
this is from, what's the date on this? This is from, what's the date? So 6 years ago is it's tagged. So 2018, 2019, in that range. Here you go.
Going to find a legal way in the next couple of days to get around a Supreme Court decision that forbids questions about citizenship on the next census. But on the most important new case announced today by the Justice Department, the Attorney General has recused himself. The Attorney General of the United States did not recuse himself from decisions involving the investigation of the president who made him the Attorney General of the United States. That would seem to be an obvious conflict of interest for Attorney General William Barr, but it takes an awful lot for William Barr to recuse himself from anything. But he did recuse himself from the biggest case the Justice Department announced today, the federal sex trafficking case against Donald Trump's old friend, Jeffrey Epstein. Here is the Attorney General's explanation today of why he recused himself in this case.
I'm recused from that matter because one of the law firms that represented Epstein long ago was a firm that I subsequently joined for a period of time.
By William Barr's standards, that's a very weak reason for him to recuse himself.
Yeah, think about that for a second, right? He recused himself. He was always adamant about not recusing himself from certain things. He recused himself because of a really indirect connection for a law firm that he worked at years later, apparently. Weird. Okay.
Himself. Very, very weak. William Barr has another connection to Jeffrey Epstein that is even closer than the one he mentioned today. William Barr's father, Donald Barr, hired Jeffrey Epstein. He hired Jeffrey Epstein.
Wait for it.
To teach high school students, high school boys and high school girls.
Oof.
Before Jeffrey Epstein became a rich player on Wall Street, William Barr's father hired Epstein to be a math teacher at one of New York City's most exclusive private schools, the Dalton School on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And there was something very, very strange about Donald Barr hiring Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was not even a college graduate. And that was and is unthinkable on faculties of elite private schools. But Donald Barr hired Jeffrey Epstein anyway. And a year later, Donald Barr resigned from the Dalton School after the Board of Trustees hired what the New York Times called an outside committee to study the school and to assess its operation under Mr. Barr. And not long after that, Jeffrey Epstein left the Dalton School.
Gee, I wonder why.
Gave up teaching high school boys and high school girls and went to Wall Street. But he wasn't finished with high school girls. Jeffrey Epstein was never accused of a crime while he was a teacher at Dalton. And today, Jeffrey Epstein was charged by federal prosecutors with sex trafficking of girls of high school age, girls who were in high school at the time or should have been in high school at the time.
Sounds like grooming.
The indictment says, quote, Epstein intentionally sought out minors and knew that many of his victims were in fact under the age of 18, including because in some instances, minor victims expressly told him their age. Now, sometimes the indictment of an old friend of Donald Trump's for sex trafficking has nothing to do with Donald Trump, but this is not one of those times. Because the Florida federal prosecutor who made a very forgiving deal with Jeffrey Epstein on similar charges that allowed Epstein to avoid prison is now Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor. Now,
you heard that right. So the federal judge that created this unbelievably generous plea deal was later appointed as Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor. Okay.
Now, we have no idea tonight whether William Barr would have blocked this prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein if he had not decided to recuse himself from the case. We don't know whether William Barr would have saved President Trump from the problem of now having to deal with Labor Secretary Alex Acosta's decision to let Jeffrey Epstein off the hook for the same kind of conduct that the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York just indicted Jeffrey Epstein for. Here's what Donald Trump said about his old friend Jeffrey Epstein in 2002. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Wow.
On the younger side. Donald Trump knew about Jeffrey Epstein and what Donald Trump called the younger side.
I think you get the point. That would be, I think, what a tangled web we weave. So as a reminder, Alex Acosta was the federal judge that oversaw the case against Jeffrey Epstein. Alex Acosta gave, in every legal circle, conservative, liberal, independent, every legal circle looked at the evidence and said, wait a second, this guy's getting a sweet fucking deal. And he did. The deal that included the inability for anybody else to ever be prosecuted. Part of the settlement was if anybody was ever named as a co-defendant, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, any of those individuals could not be prosecuted. And Alex Acosta oversaw that case. And Alex Acosta later became Donald Trump's labor secretary in the first administration. Draw your own conclusions. I think that paints the whole picture. Donald Trump referred to Jeffrey Epstein as a terrific guy. Called them, what's the quote again? Hold on, where is it? I've got it here someplace. What's the quote? I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. Quote, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Was hired by Bill Barr's dad, Don, to be a teacher, even though he was a college dropout, to be a teacher at Dalton High School. Right? High school age kids, minors in many cases. And then allegations then connected to him trafficking minors. Is that just fear? Are we fear-mongering up here? Are we lying? That's the story. Okay, so that goes back years, and then here we are now. So what's the slight correction? That's the story. So here we are. Here we are now. Here we are. We've got promises of the Epstein list being released. And nothing. And is Donald Trump on it? Abso-fucking-lutely he is. There's no doubt about it. Is Alex Acosta on it? Who knows? Who knows? Is Bill Barr on it? Who knows? By the way, Brett Kavanaugh, also at the same law firm that Bill Barr was at. Same one. So, draw your own conclusions, I guess. But we can't let this story get buried. I'm sorry, you're right. Acosta, my bad, you're right. Was the U.S. attorney. My bad, you're right. Thank you for that correction. Yes, he was the U.S. attorney, not the judge. Thank you for saying that. He was the U.S. attorney. I think it was in Florida. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate the correction. He's the one that negotiated this sweet deal. Right. So I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Jeffrey Epstein referring to Donald Trump as his closest friend. He's a lot of fun to be with, said Trump. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Draw your own conclusions. Okay, just draw your own conclusions. All right. I don't know what to say about this other than we cannot stop talking about it. We cannot stop talking about this because they want to bury this story. They want to bury it because they know that they're stuck now. We've got people in Trump space who are not happy. There's one in particular. I'm going to play this one for you, and I got to go deal with the dog. He's chewing on something. So this is Megyn Kelly, okay?
Attorney General would pretend she's giving new information to some of the president's most loyal advocates in the press, buying ink by the barrel. So either Pam Bondi knew she was about to embarrass some of his most loyal surrogates out there and did that willingly, or she didn't take the time to make sure what was in those binders. She was too lazy to actually figure out none of this is new. And yet she called a meeting with the influencers that included Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and the sitting vice president. So she's either lazy and incompetent, or she willingly humiliated some of the president's most loyal supporters. Neither one of those is good, and that's why I'm sorry, but I'm going to predict her days are numbered as a member of the Trump administration.
Right? Meghan's not too happy with Pam Bondi. So is Pam Bondi going to be the fall person? You know, is she the one? Or it could be they. I don't know what your pronouns are, Pam. I will say Pam is they. Are they the one that's going to take the heat? Who's going to take the fall? It's likely going to be somebody in the Department of Justice, whether it's Kash Patel, because ultimately this investigation was handed off to the Justice Department, the FBI. So it's crazy when we start to unpack it, when we put all the pieces together, and then we have people saying things like, I don't give a shit, even if he grapes women and even if he grapes girls and women, I don't really care. That's what that person said. So there's a couple more little bits of sound that I want to play from people who are hardcore MAGA, hardcore Trump supporters, and what they've had to say about all of this. And then I'm going to get into some stuff specifically as it relates to Trump and Pete Hegseth, and also there's more to tell about Texas. Where is that one person who has professed his love for Mr. Trump? I'll play it. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. If you don't forget about our gifting goal today, we are crowd-funded here. You want to support the channel, you can do so through Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Appreciate you very much. Do I not have it? Maybe I don't have it. Give me a second. Guess I don't have it. That's okay. Well, here you go. Here you go. Here you go.
Service Agent Scott Bryson. Let's talk.
This is a retired Secret Service agent. Speaks on Kash Patel, Dan Benino, and Pam Bondi.
Retired Secret Service Agent Scott Bryson. Let's talk about the deep state for a minute. Everybody's up in arms about Bongino and Kash. And listen, man, I'm a little concerned too, not because I think they're a part of the deep state, because I'm worried about maybe the deep state got to them. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors in D.C. any more than you do, but I know Dan Bongino. I used to work with him. The dude's a true patriot, and I got to give the man the benefit of the doubt. So, Dan, if you're seeing this, brother, give us a lifeline. Like, we want to believe in you. We do believe in you. Until it's proven otherwise, then I'm going to be a Dan Bongino fan. And I'm going to be a Kash Patel fan. And I want to be a Pam Bondi fan. But I got to be honest with you, out of all three of them, she worries me the most.
Oh, God.
And what I don't want to do is I don't want to worry about the other two, number one and number two at the Bureau. I'm hoping things are going to work out. I'm trying to hold the line. I'm trying to be glass half full, which is weird for me because I'm usually glass half empty. But we got to let this thing play out just a little bit more.
What do we let play out, my guy? Do you see how desperate they are? Do you notice nowhere in that conversation did he mention Trump? Nowhere. Nowhere did he say, why under the Trump administration, when we were told the Epstein list was going to be released, why is it not released? Instead, I got to find somebody to blame. I got to find somebody. Remember he said at the beginning, like, just this part. I'm
retired Secret Service Agent Scott Bryson. Let's talk about the deep state for a minute.
The deep state.
Everybody's up in arms about Bongino and Kash. And listen, man, I'm a little concerned too, not because I think they're a part of the deep state, because I'm worried about maybe the deep state got to them.
I'm worried that the deep state got to them. Do you guys ever, I know that there's some MAGA voters in the chat, or some MAGA in the chat. Do you guys hear yourselves? Like, do you even hear yourselves? Do you have any desire at all? Any desire to see this list? If you do, then why aren't you losing your shit? Why aren't you just saying, okay, if the fucking deep state exists, then we should be blowing the cover off the deep state? Like, how do you spin this? How do you spin this now? The answer is you can't. Okay? The answer is you can't. Okay, I'll try this. This isn't going to go well. Cosmo, how are you?
Okay, how you doing?
Fine. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so you were just talking about how to spin that situation with this alleged list.
How are they going to spin it, you mean? How are they going to spin it?
How anybody's going to spin it, I think.
It's how they're going to spin it. That's how they're going to spin it, because they're the ones that said they were going to release it, right?
I think that somebody said it was on somebody's desk, right?
No, they said they were going to release it.
Right, and release it, right? Now...
Yeah. Okay. So aren't they the ones that are spinning it, because they said they were going to release it?
I just think there's spin on both sides. But let me just hear me out on this.
Well, no. We're not going to do the both sides thing. So who said that they were going to release it?
Department of Justice.
Right, under the Trump administration, correct?
Yes, and under the Biden administration as well.
No.
Yeah.
No. Did not happen.
I have some facts for you.
No, you don't. You don't have any facts on that. So cite your source that the Biden administration went out and said that they're going to release the Epstein tape.
Well, it came out from a judge. There's a federal judge in the Southern District of New York, right?
You said the Biden administration. You said the Biden administration.
Right. So this judge
is that the Biden administration?
Well, let me get to it. So this is a judge that
we're not going to get to it, Cosmo. You said the Biden administration is a federal judge. The Biden administration.
Well, she was a federal judge while the Biden administration was active.
You said the Biden administration, my friend. That's what you said.
You're not letting me finish. The DOJ.
I'm not going to let you move past the point, Cosmo. I'm not going to let you move past the point.
The Biden DOJ.
The Trump administration said they were going to release the tape.
Yes.
The Trump administration said they were going to release the client list. The Attorney General, the FBI director, Donald Trump himself said they're going to release the Epstein list. That did not happen under the Biden administration. A federal judge is not the Biden administration. Do you understand the difference?
Well, do you understand that the DOJ?
Do you understand the difference?
Yes. Let's say Let's say Biden is the president, right? The DOJ.
What about Biden?
He's president. Is the Biden administration, right?
No, that's not how it works.
That's Biden's DOJ. It's not Trump's DOJ. That's Biden's DOJ.
A federal judge, friend. Think about what you're saying. Okay. Think about what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, I would like you to put active listening right now. This is an example where you can actively listen. Okay, the Trump administration, meaning people that are appointed to his cabinet, not people in the judiciary across the country. Okay, because don't forget, judges, federal judges, are appointed for a lifetime. Who knows who appointed that judge? We don't know. Okay, the administration,
Bush.
Donald Trump. Hold on. Okay, there you go. Bush. Donald Trump told people when asked, I can play you the sound if you forgot. Donald Trump said he was going to release the Epstein tape. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. Pam Bondi. Hold on. Pam Bondi. I've got it on my desk. They said they were going to release it. That did not happen in the Biden administration. So I want to know why it wasn't released.
All right. So here's what happened in the Biden administration.
I'm not interested in the Biden administration. I'm not interested. Cosmo, why did this issue? I'm not interested. It's got nothing. Cosmo, it's got Cosmo. It's got nothing to. Cosmo, it's got nothing to do with the Biden administration. I want to know why. Cosmo, you were either going to listen or I'm going to kick you. It's really simple.
So let's talk about
Stop talking. Stop talking. Stop talking.
You got to
find some self-control. I want to know why the Trump administration. You got to stop talking. I want to know why the Trump administration. You can't shut up, can you?
You hear this
guy?
Can
you shut up? There you go. Okay. I want to know why the promises were made to release it and why it didn't happen. And why we've got all these connections to Donald Trump. Simple question. I'll make it in two parts and I'll speak slowly. Do you believe that Donald Trump is on the Epstein client list? Yes or no? You can unmute.
I believe he's on the flight list.
So you don't believe he's on the client list?
I don't believe he's on the client list. I believe he's on the flight list.
Why do you not believe he's on the client list?
I don't think it's his thing. I don't think he would engage in anything like that. I think he would network with billionaires. I think that's the extent of it.
You don't think he would engage in crimes against women and children?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. That's why you're in a fucking cult. Get the fuck out of here. Took me a little while to get him there, but that's where I was going with that. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being that deep in the fucking cult? Can you imagine being that deep? Hold on. Hold on. Stand by.
You start and I'm ready.
In the wake of questions and allegations about Donald Trump's behavior towards women, ET discovered this footage in our archive, which we provided to CBS News.
Soon. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? Okay.
10-year-old girl. I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. But because Cosmo is so deep in the cult, he'll never accept it. Wow. That is so wild. Holy shit. Man, oh man. Bandit, how are you this morning? Bandit, are you there? Bandit, going once? Bandit going twice? Okay, I guess Bandit got disturbed. No, this was not a promise made under the Biden administration to release the Epstein tape. Didn't happen. There is no evidence of that at all. There was no claim to be made. For 4 years, people ran on this, that it was the deep state, all these people. And people like Cosmo drank the fucking Kool-Aid. You heard it, friends. I asked. He doesn't believe. So he's on the flight log. He acknowledged that on the flight. And don't forget, for years, they said, no, he wasn't on the flight log. And then that comes out, and then he's on the flight log. And then it's like, okay, well, guess what? You were convinced that he wasn't on the flight log. Then you find out that he's on the flight log. And then you're like, okay, he's on the flight log. Then there is every likelihood that he's on the client list because of all the relationships that we've talked about with Jeffrey Epstein for decades. And now he's not on the client list. Guess what? The election wasn't stolen. Guess what? He did sexually abuse E. Jean Carroll. Guess what? He did defraud the state of New York. Guess what? He did pay hush money to Stormy Daniels, and he's a 34-time convicted felon. Guess what? He did lead a coup to overthrow democracy. Guess what? He's part of a fake electors plot. Guess what? He's bankrupt multiple companies. Guess what? He's cheated on all of his wives. Guess what? He's got 26 credible allegations of sexual assault against him. Guess what? He was named as a co-defendant with Jeffrey Epstein against a 12 and a 13-year-old girl for crimes against them. All that is fucking true. Wake the fuck up, police. That's wild, but necessary. Necessary. So to close the loop on this, there are people in the circle. We've got Megyn Kelly. We've got other people. We've got Elon Musk. Now talking about, here's some sound for you, okay? And again, I don't give a fuck who's on it. I don't fucking care. This is Elon Musk on Joe Rogan a little while back.
Lawsuit was funded by Reid Hoffman, who is a major Dem donor, and also an Epstein client.
The
plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
It's so blatant. It's like so obvious. The SpaceX lawsuit, the Trump stuff, it's so obvious.
Yes. Like known Epstein clients who are obviously extremely powerful, powerful politically and very wealthy, are Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and Reid Hoffman.
Okay.
And some others too, but those three.
So
why was Reid Hoffman so intent on...
So square this. Acknowledgement from Pam Bondi that there was a list, that it's on her desk. Remember, she tried to spin that to say, it was just everything else. She was asked directly about the list, and she said, yeah, it's on my desk. Okay? On the list. You're right. These people are, very good point. These people aren't poor. They're not the ones that are threatening. They're not the ones that are going after your kids. They're not the ones that are breaking into your bathrooms. They're rich. They're the top of the list. And they've been handed over young girls to assault and to traffic. Elon went out after the divorce between he and Trump and said, Trump's on the list. Right? So you guys can't square it. So you're so fucking desperate to say that Trump can't do it. And thank you, Cosmo, for proving our point. No, I don't think he wouldn't do that. Just like, although people who you vote with say that even if he did do it, I would still support him. It is just mind-boggling how lost you guys are. Show the fucking list. Let's see the list. Let's see it. Bring the list out. Let's see it. If he's not, bring it out. If you're so convinced he's not on it, then you should be contacting the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi, this is Cosmo. I haven't amounted to anything in life. In fact, I peaked in 7th grade. But I believe that Donald Trump is not on the Epstein list. So can you please release it so I can prove the gray-haired, fast-talking, handsome, charming, smart, progressive that does lives every Monday through Friday 8 till noon, that he's wrong? Go ahead. Pick up the phone, call her. Ask her why. Go ahead. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead. Go ahead. And you know what? If the list comes out, or when it comes out, or not, or when it comes out, I want everybody on that list to get due process. Everybody. I want everybody on the list to have their day in court. I want everybody on the list to, under the law, habeas corpus, etc., to be able to face their accusers and defend themselves, and then allow the legal system to do what it does. Although, sadly, privileged white men in particular in America get away with shit like this. But I still support due process. See how easy that is? And if they're found guilty, throw their fucking asses in jail. Under the jail. Okay? Cool. Thanks. Wow. Hippie chick, how are you today?
Hey, sweetie, good morning. Let me turn this TV down real fast so that it's not in the background because I forgot to do that before I hit the thing, so I apologize. Anyways,
all good.
Let's not forget that Virginia Roberts Giuffre was recruited from Mar-a-Lago. Okay?
Correct.
Right. And also, Donald
that was
Jeffrey,
Prince Andrew's victim. Is that correct? Wasn't
correct.
She Prince Andrew's victim? Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Let us also not forget that Donald and Jeffrey lived within 1 mile of each other in Manhattan, and they lived within 5 miles of each other in West Palm Beach.
Correct.
Which is very convenient because Donald had a lot of parties at Trump Tower, and that was usually the venue for girls coming for their modeling.
Correct.
Modeling life. So
you're absolutely right.
Yes. So let's not forget those little details. But thank you so much, Fax. I love you much.
Appreciate you, hippie chick. See you later. Have a good day. It's a really good point. I forgot Virginia Giuffre. She was Prince Andrew's victim. So we know of this. So does that mean is there like a non-list list? Like, it's so wild. I don't know. No fear. Thank you very much. Overfunding public education. I got you, bro. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate you very much. Let me just make this change real quick. Thank you, everybody. We are crowdfunded. I appreciate y'all very, very much. Okay. So I think that pretty much closes the loop on all of this because that's the point, right? Why would someone be in jail for sex trafficking if there was no, who do you traffic to? It's just AI? Right? Like, so you can't square it. You guys are caught. You're stuck. Okay? All right. So let's talk about Ted Cruz a little bit. This story is wildly expected. It's pretty disturbing, but it's wildly expected because Ted is now doing the rounds, back from his Greek vacation. But I want to play. So I'm going to give credit to Brian Tyler Cohen, who I like. He broke this down, and I think I'm just going to play this for you because it speaks to a lot of what it is that we're going to talk about as it relates to Ted and what happened in Texas. Because Ted's track record with accountability when it comes to his own state and natural disasters ain't good. So here you go.
Tragedy strikes, Ted Cruz is steadfast in his search for answers and accountability. Oh, unless that tragedy took place in his state.
Yeah, that's the whole P. It's fine if it's someplace else, right? Okay, cool.
By now, everyone has seen the horrific aftermath of this weekend's flood in Kerr County, Texas, and our hearts go out.
I want you to be paying particular attention to the context that Brian describes here as it relates to Ted's response to the things that he says, meaning he'll say things that are very easy to point to hypocrisy, but when is it not in right-wing politics these days?
To anybody who's been affected. But while the rescue effort continues, one man has stood up to provide some answers.
I think it is reasonable over time to engage in a retrospective and say at every level what could have been done better, because all of us would want to prevent this horrific loss of life. But I think just immediately trying to use it for either side to attack their political opponents, I think that's cynical and not the right approach, particularly at a time when we're dealing with a crisis and we're dealing with grief.
That's right. Now is not the time. While a crisis is ongoing and people are grieving, to criticize those in charge would be cynical and, frankly, not the right approach. And shame on anybody who would dare take such a disgusting tack.
In today's Verdict with Ted Cruz podcast, we break down the catastrophic policy decisions made by elected politicians in California, made by Governor Gavin Newsom, made by Mayor Karen Bass. Over and over again, they were told these decisions would increase the risks of devastating wildfires. Over and over again, they were told these decisions would make it much harder to fight these wildfires. And yet they persisted. They put their politics above the safety of the men and women of California.
Not only did Ted Cruz shamelessly try and dunk on Democrats for not being in the driver's seat during the tragic California wildfires, while not being in his own driver's seat, he did it while promoting his podcast.
Exactly.
I'm surprised the guy...
Exactly. I'm not sure if you guys caught that, but he's promoted his podcast criticizing elected officials in regards to a natural disaster, while saying you shouldn't be criticizing elected officials during a natural disaster in my state, but it's okay if it's in a blue state. Okay.
Didn't throw in an ad read while he was at it. These are catastrophic decisions by Democrats, but I'll tell you what decision won't be catastrophic: taking a trip on Ted Cruz's Ted Cruz. Get 10% off with code HYPOCRITE at checkout. And in case you're wondering if the senator had taken his own advice and waited a little bit before going all in on Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, he didn't. His podcast promo was posted 72 hours after the fires in Los Angeles broke out. The same 72 hours that have elapsed since the flooding in Kerr County. So either Ted Cruz thinks that 3 days is the perfect amount of time to turn this into a partisan issue, or he doesn't, but he can't have it both ways. And Cruz kept on cruising.
I will say, in the wake of every tragedy, there are things that are predictable. One of the things that's predictable is that you see some people engaging in, I think, partisan games and trying to blame their political opponents for a natural disaster. And you see that with a hurricane, with a tornado, with a wildfire, with this flooding, where people immediately say, well, the hurricane is Donald Trump's fault. Look, I think most normal Americans know that's ridiculous.
I totally agree. Most normal Americans would think that capitalizing on a tragedy is ridiculous. But what about those deeply abnormal Americans out there?
And I got to tell you, you look at these California wildfires. I mean, they are horrific. It is unspeakably horrible what is happening.
Wait for it.
And one of the most frustrating aspects is a huge cause of these fires. And they're being as bad as they are, has been left-wing policies that have exacerbated. As you know, Chris, I do a podcast every week called Verdict with Ted Cruz.
Let's promote the podcast again.
Again, with the podcast plug. I'm not sure which Ted Cruz is trying to do more, score political points or score a publicist. But to be fair, Ted did eventually acknowledge that some amount of retrospection will have to take place.
There's no doubt afterwards we're going to have a serious retrospective, as you do with any disaster.
That's right.
And say, okay, what could have been done differently?
And when it comes to what could have been done differently, perhaps Ted might place in that category continuing to tour Greece while your home state is underwater.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Apparently, the Texas senator was spotted visiting the Parthenon in the Greek capital Athens with his wife Heidi on Saturday evening.
Oops.
That was a day after Camp Mystic announced that more than 20 girls had gone missing in the floodwaters.
Oof.
So Senator Cruz decided it was better to keep touring the destruction of an ancient city rather than the one being destroyed in modern times. Good to know where his priorities lie. The only thing that could have made it worse is if he hit the Athens water park before heading home.
True.
And thankfully, he didn't. Having to see Ted Cruz shirtless would be its own kind of national tragedy. And just remember, this is the second time that Senator Ted Cruz has been out of the country when tragedy struck his own home state.
Yep.
Here he is returning from soaking up some rays in Cancun while millions of Texans lost power during the brutal cold snap of 2021.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that Ted Cruz caused these two horrific weather events and fled the country so he'd have the perfect alibi, but the timing is suspicious. But when tragic events happened in his state, Ted Cruz always thinks later is better when it comes time to discussing how they took place and possible solutions. Here he is back in 2017 after the horrible mass shooting at a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas.
It is an unfortunate thing that the immediate place the media goes after any tragedy, after any murder, is politicizing it.
Oh.
We don't need politics right now.
See, it's disgusting to see the politicization of a tragedy, and Cruz felt the same way after the 2022 shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas.
But I'm also going to talk about the evil of the politicians who see a crime like this and immediately think, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me as a Democrat to push my own political agenda. That's not right.
It isn't right. And yet, with all of that said, when it comes time to pushing a Republican agenda,
the legislation I introduced that would have allowed schools like this school to access grants from those $1.3 billion in federal funds, Democrats blocked it.
It is never a time for politics.
Wow.
Unless it serves you.
Correct.
And this idea of what's good for me but not for thee is quite the popular refrain on the right. Take Megyn Kelly, who addressed the Texas floods on her show today.
Watch this.
Some in the media, absolute ghouls all over the internet, trying to blame the president and Doge for the tragedy.
So disgusting. Until all of the facts are in, members of the media should not be blaming elected officials, and they definitely should not be callously denigrating them just to score some cheap political points. Right, Megyn Kelly, during the LA fires?
What you have in California is these mealy-mouthed, kale-eating, broccoli-pushing, Birkenstock, whatever, wearing politicians who can't find another person fast enough to blame.
You know, something tells me that if anyone in the media were to come out and say, what you have in Texas is the mealy-mouthed, barbecue-eating, gun-toting, cowboy boot-wearing politicians who can't find another person fast enough to blame, Megyn Kelly's own head would explode. And that head explosion would get blamed on Biden and his auto pen. What about Biden? Look, the investigation into what could and could not have been prevented in Kerr County will go on for some time. But what is undeniable is that the ability to study and prepare for these events has gotten a hell of a lot harder under Donald Trump.
Scientists across the country are sounding the alarm over critical staffing shortages. Inside the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, officials are scrambling to fill more than 150 critical National Weather Service roles left vacant after sweeping cuts from the Trump administration. Overall, the service has lost 600 of its 4,000 employees since January. 5 former NWS directors calling it their worst nightmare in an open letter earlier this month, predicting understaffing could lead to needless loss of life.
At a time when horrific weather events are on the rise, Donald Trump cut practically 1 out of every 6 employees from the National Weather Service. True. But I guess for a guy who thinks even his wife should be able to make do without proper resources during a storm, that tracks. Look, tragedies are sadly inevitable, but providing our states and cities and counties with the proper resources to prepare for them should not be a partisan issue. Either you believe the government serves a basic, fundamental function and should have adequate funding to fulfill that function, or you believe that defunding the core functions of government to offer tax cuts to the highest earners is the answer to all of life's problems. And if the big, beautiful bill is any indication, I think we know where Republicans stand. Tragedies are not partisan, and our empathy toward the people involved shouldn't be either. So when the next horrible event occurs, you have two choices. You can either listen to your heart for the right thing to do, or you can listen to Ted Cruz's podcast, because he really wants you to.
It's a great breakdown, right? The people that constantly want to politicize things for their own agenda is hilarious to me. What we do here is we talk about cause and effect. What we know is that there were vital positions that were cut, including the warning coordination meteorologist in and around San Angelo and San Antonio, which would be the reporting agencies for that region. That position was cut, offered an early retirement, or have been fired. Those are facts, okay? The story does not end there, though, when it comes to Ted. Ted Cruz has had quite a week. The Texas senator assured the Republican spending bill slashed funding for weather forecasting, only to then go on vacation to Greece while his state was hit by deadly flooding, a disaster critics say was worsened by cuts to the forecasting. This is from The Guardian. Cruz, who infamously fled Texas for Cancun when a crippling winter storm ravaged the state in 2021, was seen visiting the Parthenon in Athens with his wife Heidi on Saturday, a day after a flash flood along the Guadalupe River in central Texas unalived more than 100 people, including dozens of children and counselors at a camp. The Greece trip, first reported by the Daily Beast, ended in time for Cruz to appear at the site of the disaster Monday morning to decry the tragedy and promise a response from lawmakers. Quote, "There's no doubt afterwards we are going to have a serious retrospective, as you do after any disaster, and say, okay, what could be done differently to prevent this disaster?" Cruz told Fox News. "The fact that you have girls asleep in their cabins when floodwaters are rising, something went wrong there. We've got to fix that and have a better system of warnings to get kids out of harm's way." Okay, the National Weather Service has faced scrutiny in the wake of the disaster after underestimating the amount of rainfall that was dumped upon central Texas, triggering floods that caused deaths and around $20 billion in estimated economic damage. Late night alerts about the dangerous floods were issued by the service, but the timelines of the response and coordination with local emergency services will be reviewed by officials. Before his Grecian holiday, Cruz ensured a reduction in funding to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, their effort to improve. Again, he changed language on the Senate version of the big, beautiful piece of shit fucking bill. He authored the changes to reduce funding to the NOAA and to NWS in their efforts to improve future weather forecasting of events that cause a sort of extreme floods that are being worsened by human-caused climate crisis. Cruz inserted language into the Republican version, the reconciliation package, prior to signing it by Donald Trump that eliminated $150 million to fund that eliminated $150 million that would have accelerated advances and improvements in research, observation systems, modeling, forecasting, assessments, dissemination of information to the public, and emergency response. Ted Cruz added that line, cutting more than $150 million from the exact people who would have been responding to, and again, I know that this is not going to go into effect until this will go into effect down the road. The point is, cuts from the NOAA and NWS already administered by the Trump administration that is listed in Project 2025, and I'll read you that specifically as it relates to it. It's by the book. And then Ted Cruz adds additional language that says, okay, well, they don't need that money. They don't need early warning systems. They don't need forecasting. They don't need warning coordination meteorologists. And then he wants to sit up there and say we shouldn't politicize this. Okay. That's fine. And then I want to close the loop on one other thing, specifically as it relates to Greg Abbott. I think I have that. Thank you, Felicia. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much. Where is that? Do I have the sound from Hot Wheels? I think I do, because this is also really critical to play, because I think it's the same story about how people are they're not going to take accountability for any of this. And I'm not sitting up here. This is not me politicizing this. Sadly, when you do after action reviews, like an AAR, right? You have to look at cause and effect because the goal is to try to prevent something again. We know that vacant positions were a result of cuts from executive actions from the White House that said NOAA, National Weather Service, you guys don't need these critical positions. So that happened. That happened. We know 1 in 6 meteorologists and scientists connected with NOAA and the NWS have been removed from their positions. They were either voluntary retirement, early retirement, or they were let go. We know that. That happened. Okay? Those are the facts. All right, this is Greg Abbott. This is wild. This is wild, his explanation about this. Unbelievable.
You ask, I'm going to use your words. Who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. High school, Friday night lights, college football, or pro. And know this, every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, then we're going to win this game. Wow. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions.
What Texas is all about is solutions. I'm going to make the football analogy. Asking someone who's to blame. And that's by design. You're talking to the voters in Texas. we're talking to them. We're talking to the voters in Texas. And they're all about Friday night lights and football and backyard barbecues and the whole 9 yards. And I'm not, disparaging people who do care about this shit in Texas, but there's many that don't give a fuck. They just literally don't give a fuck. They don't care. They don't care. That is a wild fucking flex. Okay? I'm going to play that sound for you again real quick because I got to take a quick little break. Sorry.
You ask, I'm going to use to blame. Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. High school, Friday night lights, college football, or pro. Know this, every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, then we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions.
Okay, good timing. So that's what we know about our friend Greg Abbott. What do we learn from this process, right? We've learned that it's what applies for me does not apply for thee. So Ted Cruz is arguably, I think he is, there was rankings, and we can probably look this up. He's probably the most least popular member of the Senate, member of Congress in general. People have talked about him all the time and how hateful he is and how much they despise him. But Texas, y'all keep electing him. So I don't know what to tell you, but you guys got to fix that shit. And then Hot Wheels. So don't forget, I'll leave him right there. I want to play. I've got something for you guys that I want you to hear. This is from Project 2025, the Mandate for Leadership. I have this saved, and then I saw somebody mention this, and then I forgot what page number they said it was on. So I was scrambling, kind of just reading really quickly through what it said. So give me a second here, because I want to read this to you, because again, we're talking specifically about what the executive actions and the executive orders from the Trump administration specifically, and how it directly correlates to the items that are in Project 2025. So let me find that for you, and I'll read it, because it's disturbing, because it tracks with everything that they talked about. I'm almost there. The search is weird on this document. Okay. Is that right? Okay. So this is on page 674 of the document itself, Project 2025, the mandate for leadership. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Break up NOAA. The single biggest Department of Commerce agency outside of decennial census years is NOAA, which houses the National Weather Service, National Marine Fisheries Service, and other components. NOAA garners $6.5 billion of the department's $12 billion annual operation budget and accounts for more than half of the department's personnel in non-decadal census years, according to the 2021 figures. NOAA consists of 6 main offices: the NWS, the National Oceanic Service, or NOS, the Oceanic Atmospheric Research, or OAR, the National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Services, or NESDIS, the National Marine Fisheries Service, NMFS, and the Office of Marine and Aviation Operations and NOAA Corps. Together, these form a colossal operation that has become one of the main drivers of the climate change alarm industry, and as such is harmful to future U.S. prosperity. The industry's mission emphasis on prediction and management seems designed around the fatal conceit of planning for the unplannable. That is not to say NOAA is useless, but its current organization corrupts its useful function. It should be broken up and downsized immediately. NOAA today boasts that it is a provider of environmental information services, a provider of environmental stewardship services, and a leader in applied scientific research. Each of these functions could be provided commercially. Follow what? Follow what, friends? Follow the money. Let's privatize this too. Cool. Each of these functions could be provided commercially, likely at lower cost and higher quality. Okay. Focus on the NWS on commercial operations. Each day, Americans rely on weather forecasts and warnings provided by local radio stations and colleges that are produced not by the NWS, but by private companies such as AccuWeather. Studies have found that forecasts and warnings provided by the private companies are more reliable than those provided by the NWS. That is bullshit. The NWS provides data the private companies use and should focus on its data gathering services. So that they just contradicted themselves. Those private companies use NWS data. Because private companies rely on these data sets, the NWS should fully commercialize its forecasting operations. NOAA does not currently utilize commercial partnerships as some other agencies do. Commercialization of weather technology should be prioritized to ensure the taxpayer dollars are invested in the most cost-efficient technologies for high-quality research and weather data. In review the work of the National Hurricane Center and National Environmental Satellite Services. Again, the entire point of Project 2025, specifically as it relates to this, is to eliminate NOAA, to commercialize it. To commercialize it. Exactly, Gen X. Commercialize it to control it. Think about what that statement says. All these groups under NOAA, together, these form a colossal operation that has become one of the main drivers of the climate change alarm industry, and as such is harmful to future U.S. prosperity. The weather, friends. The weather. The fucking weather. It's unbelievable. I forgot. I would not have even known that this existed, and I wish I could remember the person who posted this, but I want to give them credit. It was somebody that I found on IG who was talking about this, and I'm like, holy fuck, I remember that being in the Project 2025 about NOAA, and there it is. You guys still think that Trump's not using, I mean, Project 2025, it's almost like, you know, you're given the keys to a car and claim that you made the car. This is their entire fucking agenda. It's their entire agenda. So there you go. All right. A couple more things that I want to get into. Does public opinion matter? Because that's our topic today. Let's kind of close the loop with the whole situation that happened, in the cabinet room, that presser. It was wild that we have. Oh, by the way, here's a rundown. Epstein files will be released. Lie. Ukraine-Russia war ended on day one. Lie. 90 deals in 90 days. Lie. Israeli hostages all returned. Lie. I will not start wars. Lie. We will only expel the bad people. Lie. Prices will be down. Lie. Factories will come back to the U.S. Lie. On that one in particular, I think I want to touch on this real quick because there's a really wild story. Do I have that? Where is it? You hear Trump talking all the time, and I'll get into my last piece before we get into the today's topic about the billions of dollars that are coming into the country. The number changes every fucking day, like every fucking day. How Trump is taking credit for Biden's biggest achievements. The president claims of attracting $14 billion in investment just doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Actually, he's claiming $14 trillion. A website set up by the White House to brag about corporate investments under Trump appears to take credit for over $1 trillion of deals initiated under the Biden administration. Just hours after taking office in January, President Trump boasted about attracting $3 trillion worth of corporate investments to the U.S. Since then, Trump has claimed that number has swelled to over $14 trillion, which, by the way, is like half of our entire GDP. So, no. The White House set up a website to track these investments, which it is labeled the Trump effect. A study from Reuters, though, has revealed that of the $2.6 trillion in investments listed on the site, over half, by the way, that number is already significantly below what Trump's latest claim is, $14 trillion. Over half originate from deals and initiatives signed and put into place by Joe Biden. Thank you, Joe. At least 8 of the projects listed on the page, totaling around $1.3 trillion, had already been announced prior to Trump's inauguration, Reuters reports, while another 2 had been boosted by domestic spending initiatives put in place by the Biden administration. Swiss drug company Roche, which is listed on the website as investing $50 billion into U.S.-based manufacturing and research development, also recently warned that its investment was being threatened by Trump's plans to equalize domestic and international drug prices. Amongst the deals touted by the website include $900 billion CHIPS and Science Act, a bipartisan bill passed by Biden, which Trump has previously derided as a horrible thing. So people investing under the monies allocated by the CHIPS and Science Act, signed into law, bipartisan bill, signed into law under the Biden administration, the Trump administration is attempting to take credit for it. So which is it? Here's a question for you, MAGA. Okay, listen. Okay, pull up a chair. Was it a horrible thing, as Trump said, the CHIPS and Science Act? Was it a horrible thing? And if it was a horrible thing, why is he taking credit for it? Another example includes a $5.8 billion Louisiana steel plant from Hyundai added to Trump's list in March, which was actually finalized in December of 2024 after a nationwide search. A $366 million Lego distribution center in Virginia, touted in May, was in negotiations with state officials as early as 2022. While Chobani's $1.2 billion in New York plant was in discussions with the state in May of 2023, well before Trump's presidency. So, when asked about taking credit for Biden-era deals and policies, a White House spokesperson claimed the final decisions were undertaken during Trump's tenure and that the president's economic policies were responsible for triggering investment. So I was thinking about this because what the right likes to claim is no matter who's in charge, it doesn't matter because it might have gone into place before. So we can look at Afghanistan, right? We can look at Afghanistan. If Donald Trump now wants to take credit for things that were initiated under the Biden administration, right? Then Joe Biden and his administration should be able to criticize the Trump administration for signing the deal to withdraw our troops and leave from Afghanistan. You can't have it both ways. So it's just more lies to try to convince the American people that he is such a great businessman. Okay? All right. Good to know. All right. So then I want to go back to the cabinet meetings that happened over the last few days. And then I've got some interesting things, a little research project that AI did, which I thought was fucking wild. Let me see if I can find it. First, here's this little sound. We should probably play this because this is the president of the United States.
Republican congressmen and women, because
I played some of this. I played some of this yesterday. We talk about how the right likes to claim that the left is divisive. Okay.
I want to thank Republican congressmen and women because what they did is incredible last night. And the Senate, the Republican Senate, we got, not with all of the things we did with the tax cuts and rebuilding our military, not one Democrat voted for us. And I think we use it in the campaign that's coming up, the midterms, because we got to beat them. But all of the things that we've given, and they wouldn't vote only because they hate Trump. Yeah. But I hate them too. You know that? So it's sort of, I really do. I hate them.
What?
I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country. You want to know this?
Oh, okay. Okay. So remember I said this yesterday? What a great campaign ad. Not one Democrat signed up for this bill. Cool. Not one Democrat voted for rural hospitals to close. Not one Democrat voted to kick 13.5 million Americans off of Medicaid. Not one Democrat voted to cut SNAP benefits. Not one Democrat voted to cut funding to NOAA or to the NWS. Not one Democrat did any of those things. There's your campaign ad. You're welcome. Thank you to Marilla for your $2 challenge. Marilla said, $2. I'm throwing it down now. There you go, friends. Thank you, Marilla. I appreciate you. Let me do this. The die has been cast, as they say. Please consider supporting the channel, friends. We're still marching towards our sub goal. If we can hit our target today, we need 11 total. If we can do that, we will do another giveaway tomorrow during our live. And as a reminder, programming note for tomorrow, it's Antifa Friday. We will do a special edition. We're going to do this every Friday from now on. And I still don't come up with a name, so I might just call it Hometown Heroes. We're going to recognize people that are doing the work, who don't get a lot of press. There's some great stories from what happened over the weekend in some great heroic acts, and we're going to highlight that in particular as part of our feature tomorrow for Antifa Friday. And then tomorrow night, we'll go back to our roots in Facts After Dark, and it will be an edition of Are You Okay? So it'll be a mental health check-in for folks. It can get heavy, can also be very uplifting. In fact, we've met a lot of members of our community that we have on our team through the Are You Okay segment. So we'll do that tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. All right, so the I don't know how I think about how people feel about the Trump administration specifically because they look at it as this strong man, right? And they always talk about Trump as this great leader and this amazing businessman and all these things. And it's really, really weird because we know none of that is true. This was part of this wild press conference that he gave yesterday. And just the way in which he says things is just so obvious about so much.
Things are more costly. No, they're much less costly. Yesterday, $1.99 a gallon. There's 3 states were selling gasoline at $1.99. Yeah.
That is just not true. Now there may be an individual gas station here and there, but there is no state that has gas prices on the national average below $2.60. Okay.
I haven't seen that for a long time. And I brought costs way down, just about every cost. I can't think of a cost that went up, but just about every cost. So what they do is they lie. I mean, they take ads. You'd almost think that the advertising station would stop it because they know it's wrong. It's such a lie. All you can do is say it's a lie and explain it. I guess I have the ability to explain it at conferences like this, so I like to take advantage of it and do it. But
wild. Real quick, Steel City Cutlass, you asked, have I cooked breakfast for my wife's boyfriend yet? No, the 3 of us eat breakfast in bed together. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Okay. So that's that. So when I talk about the projection, right, the amount of projection that comes out of his mouth saying that they lie, it's just wild to me. All right, so I want to get into that. I want to get into that story. There's a couple of things that I think is really, really disturbing. One is his. I don't know how else to describe it, but there's reporting now about some audio. Well, there's audio connected to it, and I'll get into a couple of different things about threats that he made to Xi Jinping and to Vladimir Putin prior to being sworn in. So I'll play this sound for you. This is wild. We should talk about this because this is wild.
We are getting exclusive audio from 2024 of Trump then as a candidate discussing details of a private conversation that he once had with President Putin. The audio reveals that Trump says that he threatened not just President Putin, but also China's President Xi Jinping. And this is what he told donors about what exactly that conversation looked like during a private fundraiser last year.
To Putin, I said, if you go in to Ukraine, we're going to bomb the shit out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. The public wants it. The public.
The quote is this. With Putin, I said, if you go into Ukraine, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. So he goes like, I don't believe you. He said, no way. And I said, way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you. But the truth is he believed me 10%. I told you this. He believed me 10%.
So he goes like, I don't believe you. He said, no way. And I said, way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you. But the truth is he believed me 10%. And I told you this. He believed me 10%. Then I'm with President Xi.
And then it goes on. Then I'm on with President Xi of China. I said the same thing to them. I said, you know, if you go into Taiwan, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Beijing. He thought I was crazy. He said, Beijing? You're going to bomb Beijing? I said, I have no choice. I got to bomb you.
China. But I said the same thing to them. I said, you know, if you go into Taiwan, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Beijing. He thought I was crazy. He said, Beijing? You're going to bomb Beijing? I said, I have no choice. I got to bomb them. We're going to bomb Beijing. And he didn't believe me either, except 10%. And 10% is all you need. In fact, 5% would have been okay too. And we never had a problem. We would have never had a problem.
The Trump campaign declined to comment on the content of what you just heard there.
What you see in that tape is Trump behind closed doors to his richest donors in New York, telling them, you know, I had control over these guys, basically espousing the madman theory, right? And I think what the frustration you're seeing now from President Trump, Putin's just not listening to him.
So let's square this, right? Let's square this. I've already seen some, you know, I know many MAGA men, and you're getting your chubby on your micro P when you hear things like that because you think it's great. You hear fucking Trump? You hear him? You hear what he said? He said, you do this and I'm going to drop a big one right on Moscow, right on Beijing too. See that? That's how you fucking lead. You same mouth-breathing dumbasses who say you don't want to be involved in any more foreign conflicts. So square it. Which one is it? You can't have it both ways. That's not diplomacy, friend. You want the president? This was before he was even in office. This was with his donors. You want the president making threats like that? Do you get it? Does that not disturb you? Does that not disturb you? It should. It should disturb you. How do you square it? How do you square it? We heard for years, you don't want any more money spent on foreign wars. You do not want our sons and daughters and non-binary individuals drafted or brought or having to fight overseas. And now you're okay with a relatively moderately successful campaign that only deterred the Iranian nuclear program by a few months, not obliterated, more lies there. Are you suddenly okay with threats against Moscow? Keep in mind, if that was Joe Biden caught on tape, you guys would be losing your fucking shit. If Joe Biden was caught on tape saying something like that, this is what I would do. You're fucking delusional, Joe. The fuck is wrong with you? Sorry, I'm not voting for you because you're a fucking madman. See? See how easy that is? Okay, let me get into this story then, because we heard. Well, let me back up a second. So there was this wild moment in this press conference, right? And I'll play this for you. We were talking about how there's this story about Ukrainian funding, Ukrainian armaments being paused, and nobody really knowing where. Well, here's the story.
An unusual moment yesterday during President Trump's cabinet meeting.
Mr. President, you want to send more weapons to Ukraine, as you said last night. Last week, the Pentagon paused some shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Did you approve of that pause?
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
We now know who ordered the pause in weapon shipments to Ukraine. It was Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was sitting right next to President Trump in the meeting, but he didn't speak up when that question was asked. Now, according to 5 sources familiar with the matter, Hegseth didn't tell the White House that he ordered the pause, and it set off a mad scramble inside the Trump administration to understand why it happened. Now, Trump told Hegseth last week to restart the shipments of defensive weapons to Ukraine. But why was this pause ordered? According to a source, the Pentagon's decision to suspend the shipments came after Trump asked Hegseth last month during the NATO summit to provide him with an assessment of U.S. weapon stockpiles. But Trump did not specifically direct Hegseth to halt the weapon shipments. That's according to 3 sources familiar with that decision. That recommendation reportedly came from a member of Hegseth's staff, who has long been skeptical of sending large quantities of U.S. military aid to Ukraine. Now, we asked the White House and Pentagon to explain why Hegseth ordered this pause without telling the White House. And they both issued statements that didn't address that question directly.
Oh, shocker. So SecDef Pete Hegseth did not inform the White House before he authorized a pause on weapon shipments to Ukraine last week, according to 5 sources familiar with the matter, setting off a scramble inside the administration to understand why the halt was implemented and explained it to Congress and to the Ukrainian government. So that happened. So then there's the follow-up. Okay, so this is wild. This is the best part, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, please.
Sir, yesterday you said that you were not sure who ordered the munitions halted to Ukraine. Have you since been able to figure that out?
Well, I haven't thought about it because we're looking at Ukraine right now and munitions, but I have not gone into it.
What does it say that such a big decision could be made inside your government without you knowing?
I would know. If a decision was made, I will know. I'll be the first to know. In fact, most likely I'd give the order, but I haven't done that yet. Yeah, please.
What? You were asked. Hold on.
There was an unusual moment yesterday during President Trump's cabinet meeting.
Mr. President, you want to send more weapons to Ukraine, as you said last night. Last week, the Pentagon paused some shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Did you approve of that pause?
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Sir, yesterday you said that you were not sure who ordered the munitions halted to Ukraine. Have you since been able to figure that out?
Well, I haven't thought about it because we're looking at Ukraine right now and munitions, but I have not gone into it.
What does it say that such a big decision could be made inside your government without you knowing?
I would know. If a decision were made, I will know. I'll be the first to know. In fact, most likely I'd give the order, but I haven't done that yet. Yeah, please.
Okay, which is it? I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Or I know every decision. Which is it? Which is it? So now you know that the soundbite, because that was Caitlin Collins from CNN who asked that question, like, who paused it? Like, who did it? I don't know. They're not going to play that soundbite. They're only going to play little excerpts in safe spaces on Fox about, I know, I'm in charge, I know every single decision. So we certainly know that Pete Hegseth is again showing that he is just wildly incompetent to do his job. Pam Bondi, wildly incompetent to do her job. Kristi Noem, wildly incompetent to do her job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think he's making any fucking decisions at all. I don't think he's making a one other than when to play golf. I don't think he's making any decisions at all. So there you go. All right, I want to get into our topic today. Thank you for allowing us to kind of catch everybody up on the news, because those are just some stories that I think are really, really important. So the question that I wanted to ask, and I've been thinking about this for a while, because there's the difference between public opinion and, first of all, I should back up a second. So public opinion, oftentimes, because what I've got here is I've compiled a lot of polling data. Now, election polls and prognostications through polling of picking candidates is as far as I'm concerned, is a grossly overrated science, because people's opinions change. Like, you'd ask somebody on a Tuesday who they're going to vote for, and they might tell you something because they could be standing with someone who's influential in their life, and then their vote might be different in the voting booth. So it's not, I would consider, wildly accurate. Okay. Public opinion polls, on the other hand, are just someone's feelings and or opinions on something. And that is generally much more consistent and accurate. Pew and Gallup and Ipsos over the years are ones that really conduct a lot of highly regarded and well-respected public opinion polls. So that's where the data comes from. So the numbers that I'm going to share with you come from Ipsos, Gallup, and Pew. And they're all pretty close. I was amazed when I looked at it. They're all within 2 or 3 percentages of one another. So that tells me it's credible. So again, that information would be a primary source from Pew, from Gallup, and from Ipsos. And what I'm sharing to you would be my interpretation of that data. So I would be considered a secondary source, but I will be citing the primary source, which is the data. Okay. So let's kind of, the way I looked at it, I kind of wanted to start, okay, first of all, what does public opinion say? The reason I want to do this exercise is because, the argument is if the majority of Americans, or the minority, or whatever the representation is of Americans across all states. So when Pew and when Gallup and Ipsos, when they do polling, they conduct it with a wide variety of people: Republicans, Democrats, independents, non-voters. So the data here is a really good reflection of the American populace, because there are certain issues that are galvanizing as a nation. So we think, but when it comes down to the actual data, it's not the case necessarily. So let me see if I got to get it at the top, because I put a lot of work into this one. All right. I picked 4 particular topics: abortion, gun control, climate change, and immigration. And I figured those 4, because I could have gone, first of all, I could have spent more hours doing this, but those 4 issues seem to be one of the ones, especially, I added climate change and natural disasters now just because of the recent events, but immigration, gun control, and abortion are always very hotly contested issues. So we think, okay? So I'll go through each of these and then I'll summarize it, right? So again, according to a combination of Ipsos, Gallup, and Pew, 66% of Americans support abortion being legal in most or all cases. That's Americans. Okay, that covers a wide variety of political affiliations. So the question, ultimately, where we're going with this is, does public opinion matter? Because if the voters are saying, I care about this issue, and then the elected representatives are not voting in that way, then that would unfortunately tell us that public opinion does not matter, and it should. Okay, I know it's been that way for years. Leading up to the 2024 election, it was the second most popular or most discussed issue, and then we've seen shifts. So it's increased among Democrats and independents by about 25%, and it's decreased by Republicans, conservatives by about 10%. So the gap is getting wider and wider, but yet more and more people are identifying as people who support a woman's right to their body. How shocking. Gun control, another hotly contested issue. Now, you would like to think that this is a 50-50 issue. It is not. 87% of people polled through Pew, Gallup, and Ipsos, 87% say they support a background check. 87%. 80% say that they believe in raising the age limit to 21. 80% believe that there should be mental health screenings in advance of a firearm purchase. And then 61% say that they support a ban on assault weapons. Crazy. You always see a spike post-tragedy. Those numbers fluctuate. That's a real issue, right? I've always believed in, my personal belief is I believe in universal background checks. I believe in red flag laws. I believe in the raising the age to purchase. And I do believe there needs to be some type of mental health screening in advance for purchase. Those are the things that I believe. Like we can debate the ban on assault weapons. We can certainly debate it depending on, as long as the list is right. But I would support that as well. But I would have some wiggle room on that one if I could get the rest. Okay? Climate change and natural disasters. 70% support government's role in addressing climate change and disaster response. 70%. Okay? 70%, again, Ipsos, Gallup, Pew. Studies done across all political spectrums and ideologies. So we're talking about issues here that are wildly popular amongst all Americans. Does public opinion matter? And then immigration. 65% of people nationwide support a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. 65%. And that split is it's 42% Republican, 89% Democrat, 71% independent. So even on the Republican side, they're close to half. Immigration importance rose by about 50% who see it as a top priority. And we know that was coming from the right. Republicans now see immigration as more critical, 61% compared to 41% in 2020. Democrats less so, 24% now, 36% in 2020. Right? So it's like these are issues that there is common ground on. But because of the media environment that we live in, we're not convinced that that's the case. Again, overwhelming majority, it's not even close. We're talking about all people surveyed. In particular, 87% in regard to background checks, age limits, mental health screenings, and ban on assault weapons. All those are well above 60%. 67% support women's right to her body. Most are all cases. Immigration, climate, all these things are overwhelmingly popular amongst all Americans. All of them. All these things that we've been talking about for a very, very long time. So again, 66% support abortion, legal in most cases. 87% support background checks. 56% say that we should be doing something about climate change and policy. And 65% on average support immigration. So these are the takeaways. Broad consensus on gun control that measures across party lines. Remain deeply partisan on abortion and immigration, but yet the public sentiment is in support of it. The majority of people, there's a divide. Certainly, independents and Democrats believe in a clear and concise path to citizenship, whereas Republicans let just under, so 46% believe in the same. So how do we get there? I think the issue that we really run into is that the state ballot measure component, right? So I was curious about that. So we have, well, let me do something different here. Let me look at one more trend line. Where is that? Bear with me. I have a lot of freaking data here, and my head was spinning. Okay, so we look at swing states. They get a lot of attention, and I wish they didn't. But we're talking Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada. Okay, again, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada. They have swung back and forth the last three elections. Trump in 2016, Biden in 2020, Trump in 2024. They literally swung back and forth. So same issues: abortion rights, climate, and immigration, and gun control. Those states. Okay, pretty good indicator, right? Again, we're using the same data set: Ipsos, Pew, and Gallup. Across 6 swing states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada. Over 60% of people surveyed in those states, again, public opinion on these issues, over 60% support abortion rights, action on climate, immigration reform, and gun control. 60%. Again, survey covers Republicans, Democrats, and independents. Okay? Despite politically competitive, because again, lots of factors, we could look at gerrymandering, that's all real. The voters support women's rights to their body to the tune of 63%, action on climate to the tune of 61%, immigration reform to the tune of 64%, and firearm control to the tune of 70%. So all these issues, remember how we always talk about there's got to be some common ground anywhere? Well, there is. That's common ground. Those are hotly debated issues that come up in every single campaign. We didn't even get into the economy because that's a whole different. There was so much data out there. I'm like, I can't even spend my time on everything else. So I got to get this done. But that's a big piece, right? So then we talk about legislation. So in 2024, 67% of voters in Pennsylvania agreed that there should be some rights and protections for pregnant people. The government should not be forcing them to give birth. Fetal viability is where they target, 22, 24 weeks in that particular range. Roe, basically. In Arizona, Proposition 139 approved abortion up to 24 weeks. 65% support. Colorado Amendment 79, enshrined abortion into their constitution with a 65% response rate. Montana, Amendment 3, CI 128 and Amendment 3, both passed with 56% approval and 58% approval, despite Trump winning Montana. In Nevada, question 6, same question about fetal viability, 65%. So swing states are a pretty good indication of American sentiment, but even bright red states like Montana, what did Trump win Montana by? Like 45 points, if not more? When voters are asked on a public opinion poll how they feel about something, they're telling you. They're telling you, right? They're saying, I believe in a woman's right to her body. I believe that there should be responsible firearm legislation. I believe that there should be a pathway to citizenship, that we need to approach immigration differently. And I believe that we should consider responsible gun reform and action on climate. This is what the voters are telling us. So let's go into gun control. Public opinion, again, extremely strong, pushing 70% in the swing states, right? Think about the swing states we've got. We've got some, there's some rural elements of swing states. You've got Western Pennsylvania, you've got Nevada, you've got Arizona. There's things that are part of the gun culture. Michigan debated bills on safe storage and gun-free zones reflecting public will. They did that. 2024 Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, backed by Biden, aligned with voter calls for tougher gun measures. Voter support translated into real legislative momentum at both state and federal levels, even in closely contested states. Again, wildly popular. Climate action, 62%. Okay. Minnesota, a swing Midwestern state, enacted strong clean energy mandates, 100% carbon-free electricity by 2040. 72% by 2040. 72% of Minnesota voters supported that. 72%. And it ain't all blue. And then where environmental concern is backed up by specific policy discussions, overwhelming support from the voters. Immigration reform, pathway to citizenship, 65% support in swing states, okay? No major ballot initiatives targeted with this in 2024. Didn't make it to the ballot. But when asked, voters are like, yeah, we need something like that. All right. And then we get into the whole issue specifically as it relates to why these things are not making it to the ballot. We have some complexity as it relates to citizen-initiated ballot measures. So, well, let me back up a second. The question then becomes, if all these things made it to the ballot, if all of these various issues that we just discussed, abortion rights, gun control, climate, and immigration, if all of them made it to the ballot, right, what would happen? So abortion rights would pass in nearly every blue state. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Ohio, everyone, swing states, I should say, would pass, pass in nearly all blue states and most swing states, okay? Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Ohio, Kansas, Montana would not classify as swing, but when given the opportunity to speak their mind, voters in those states said, yep, I certainly believe a woman right to her body. And then they would fail in deep red states, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Idaho. That's fair. But what this tells you is that the overwhelming majority of the country, including many red states, support a woman's right to her body, to make independent decisions, autonomous. Okay? Firearm reform would pass in most blue states and swing states, and then mixed and or fail in some southern and Great Plains states. Texas is on every one of these lists, by the way. Mississippi and Wyoming. Okay? But again, overwhelming majority of Americans in all states and all political ideologies support responsible firearm legislation. Universal background checks, red flag laws, raising the age to purchase, assault weapon ban, things like that. Climate action would obviously pass in coastal states, or most, but not all coastal states are blue. And then most parts of the Midwest. So Midwestern states who are inundated by flooding would pass action on climate. Fail in deep red and fossil fuel dependent states. West Virginia, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas again, Oklahoma. Are you getting a trend line here? Follow the money, right? Are you starting to understand the trend where this is going? And then immigration would pass in most every blue state and even some purple states and even some red states. California, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Virginia. Fail in states with hardline immigration stances like Texas again, Alabama, and Idaho. I think it's important to talk about this kind of stuff because we're now just over a year and a half out from the midterm elections, and we're going to be really shifting our focus to identifying winnable competitive seats and things like that. So when we're talking about public opinion, I want you to be sure that you are asking your elected officials or potential elected officials, or telling them what's important to you, and are they going to vote for that as well? So here's the trend on all these things. Again, abortion, gun control, immigration, and climate. Northeast, all four would pass. Safe to say, right? Again, my opinion, but based on the data. In the West Coast, all four would pass. Upper Midwest, most would pass, especially on abortion, climate, and guns. South, most would fail, with a possible exception of firearm reform, because there's enough on the majority of people saying, yeah, we need this. We have to have some responsible legislation. Southwest would be mixed. Arizona and Nevada likely to pass abortion, immigration, and firearm protections. Great Plains most likely would fail. And then the Mountain West, mixed. So the only part of our country that would likely fail all four of those is the Great Plains. The Great Plains now, dealing with drought, dealing with flooding, dealing with more serious tornadoes. I'd like to think they might want to address climate. We know some of the Great Plains states have high levels of homicide, have high levels of maternal mortality and infant mortality. They might want to consider addressing firearms reform and women's health care, but they don't. But they don't, because they keep electing people, because the public opinion, even in those states, say that we should be, but they keep electing people who aren't. Which then brings us down to ballot measures. So the idea behind, firstly, I believe that all 50 states should have a mechanism where citizens can initiate a ballot measure or a referendum or whatever that might be, whether it be special election or whatever it might be. There are currently 26 states that give citizens some ability to initiate a ballot measure. Initiatives would be citizen proposed new laws or constitutional amendments, and then a referendum would be citizens to vote to uphold or repeal laws passed by the legislature. Of those 26 states, 21 allow for citizens to initiate statutes, and then 18 allow citizens initiated constitutional amendments. Some states permit only veto referendums, for example, Maryland and New Mexico. Okay? So 19 states offer a direct initiative process where citizen proposed statutes or amendments go straight to a statewide vote if sufficient signatures are gathered. So we saw something like that in Ohio and in Florida, I believe, where the elected officials, the legislatures in those states, were very afraid of their constituents, right? Very afraid. And I'll find that quote from Thomas Jefferson about tyranny. Tyranny is when Tyranny is when the citizens are afraid of the government. Liberty is when the government is afraid of the citizens, or something to that effect. So tyranny, because the governments in those states were afraid of their citizenry in response, in particular, I think it was to abortion. So instead of a simple majority, they tried to change the rules, raise the number to 60%. That happened a lot. Everybody, please consider contributing to our gifting goal. Don't forget, we are working towards subscribers, and see if we can get to 300K as quickly as possible. And don't forget, if you want to support the channel, we are crowdfunded, so thank you in advance. All right, so total states with citizen-initiated power would be 26, so it's half. Some states have no power at all. It's not I live in a state that does not offer citizen-initiated ballot referendums, and I would like that to change. In fact, it's always been that way, and I remember talking about it when I served in my legislature years ago. The advantage I have is that the number one, the most popular and the most majority political party in my state is the Progressive Party, and I'm aligned with most of what they say. So it's an advantage for me. I feel privileged about that. All right, so here's the list. States that allow both citizen-initiated statutes and constitutional amendments: Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, with amendments only. They can only look for a referendum in an attempt to change a law. Idaho, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, only indirect for statutory initiatives, Washington, and Wyoming. So there's 20. 20 state, 60, these 16 states allow for citizens. Okay, so there's 4 exceptions. Florida, amendments only. Massachusetts, indirect initiative. Utah, only indirect statutory initiatives. So there's 17 that allow unlimited. You can, if you can gather enough signatures, boom. States that allow only constitutional amendments by citizens. These states permit ballot initiatives only for constitutional amendments, meaning that citizens can introduce something to amend the Constitution. Illinois, it's limited to structural issues of the legislature. Mississippi, that right, sadly, was suspended in 2021. Do you want to know why? Do you remember why? Don't forget, the Dobbs decision initiated out of Mississippi. And the state legislature was really concerned that that was going to blow back on them. So they suspended the ability for citizens to initiate a constitutional amendment change. Florida also, via citizen initiative for amendments only, and then Ohio allows initiated amendments statutes via indirect method. So, okay. And then we have one more category, states that allow only veto referenda. No citizen initiatives for changes, only in response to something that's already been passed. Maryland, New Mexico, and Kentucky. Here's the list of states that don't allow any of it. Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Hawaii, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. So it tells me a lot, right? It tells me a lot. Here's the summary. 20 states allow both amendments and statutes. 4 states allow amendments only. 3 states allow veto referendums only, and 24 no citizen-initiated measures. So what does that do for us, right? What does it do? This comes down to the fact that public opinion for things we could gain traction on, but there's no way to move on it in some states unless we are electing people who align with the beliefs of the state. So senators in particular, because you could have a district. So here's a scenario for you, right? You represent a district where the polling says 65% of your constituents support a woman's right to her body. You represent a district, the same district, where 58% want to see responsible firearm legislation. The majority in every category. So your responsibility as a representative is to do what? That's your job. You are there to represent your district. That is your job. There's no debate. Now, it could be the other way. You know, you could represent a district where the numbers are the other way. The majority of your citizens are against it, against all those things. It's your job to vote that way. That's your fucking job as a representative. It's a little bit more complicated as a senator, but not really. It's a little bit more complicated. You've got margins. You've got, you're talking about close margins. You can talk about harm reduction. Public opinion has to matter. And it just doesn't now in our crazy fucked up world. Well, I'm not going to say it never existed, but there's no the support. How do I want to say this? When you've got people that we are sending to DC, their job is not to get a soundbite on mainstream media. Their job is not to have a podcast. They can if they want to, but that's not their job. Their job is to represent you. As a representative of the 13th district in New York, my constituents elected me to go to Washington to represent them. They believe that a woman should have a right to her body. They believe there should be responsible firearm legislation. They believe that there should be a path to citizenship. They believe we need to be taking climate action. I may not necessarily agree with all those things, but that's not my role. My job is to represent what they say. How do we move the needle if people aren't doing their job? The answer to me is simple. Vote their fucking asses out. Make them, hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. We can get into gerrymandering. I get it. I understand it's a complicated situation. I totally get it. It's a conversation we have to have. But their job is to represent you. And this applies to you conservatives too. This applies to you as well. Now, again, we in a country as large as ours, don't forget we've got. It's funny. I have one rep to Congress, right? Because of the population of Vermont. Her name is Becca Ballant. You should research her. She's great. She is fantastic. I've been in contact with her campaign. In fact, I know some people who work on her staff just because of relationships I've had in the past. She's fantastic. She's my representative. She's responsive. I've just been trying to get her on the show. She voted against TikTok, so conversation. I actually questioned her about that, and I didn't really like her response. But anyway, have you had that conversation? Have you had that conversation with your elected representative? Have you asked them those things specifically? You could even come up with a cheat sheet, and we can help you develop this. Right? Do you believe in a woman's right to her body? Like, would you support a woman's right to her body up to fetal viability? Just use fetal viability. Okay, whatever that is. 22 weeks. I think it's 22 weeks. Would you support legislation for universal background checks, for raising the age to purchase, or what legislation would you support in regard to addressing the epidemic that is gun violence in our country? Can you tell me your opinions on a path to citizenship? What is your opinion on legislation to address climate change? And if you believe in all those things having to happen and they don't do that, then are they going to get your vote? Listen, I don't give a shit what color they are as far as they're blue or red. I don't care what they claim. There are people out there who claim to be progressives, and they're not progressives. You want those things that I just listed? And seriously, are they really that complicated? We can get into do you support after school programs for children free? Do you support free school lunches? We can get into that stuff too, obviously, and make them fucking answer. And make them answer. You could just be, due respect. You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok, but we can be lazy as voters. We can be apathetic. I'm represented by a Democrat. Okay. Are you represented by a moderate? Because don't forget, there are conservative Democrats too. And you guys know how I feel. You are either a progressive, meaning you want a society to move forward, or you're a conservative. Moderate Democrats, in my opinion, are fucking dangerous. Because they will be able to convince people because they'll use rhetoric about anti-Trump shit. They'll talk about the big, bold, beautiful piece of shit bill. They'll talk about that kind of stuff, but yet they've got their hand out taking corporate lobby money. They're not going to vote. They're not going to be aggressive enough. They're not going to be assertive enough to demand the kind of shit that we just discussed. Fucking demand it. There's absolutely no reason in the United States of America in 2025 that women can't control their own fucking bodily choices. And if your elected official does not speak about it as passionately as I just did, then fuck them. I don't give a shit what their political affiliation is. I don't care. If they don't say, yes, we need to demand universal background checks. I support universal background checks. The raise the age to purchase, we can discuss what that looks like. Maybe we make an exception for somebody who serves in the military. All those little nuances, no doubt about it. If they don't demand it, fuck them. Vote their asses out. If they don't say we need to take some serious action on climate, I'm behind legislation that we continue to overfund NOAA and NWS, because we have to respond to that, because we are seeing the climate crisis get worse. We're seeing the frequency of storms get more, and we're seeing the intensity of storms get greater. So yes, I support legislation like that. And then, what was the other one? Immigration. I believe in a path to citizenship. Demand that shit. You're not alone, because public opinion is on your side. The majority of people that you share this country with also agree. It's the maths is in your favor. Our elected officials, now listen, we have to be realistic at the same time. Every vote they make is not always, you're not going to always agree with. That's the sad part about politics. And I get that part, and we have to be willing to accept that. But on the larger issues, if no love lost between me and Chuck Schumer, if I was the Senate Majority Leader and the issue about shutting the government came down, I would have been like, shut that fucker down, pull the plug, kick it out of the wall. Because now we're seeing what happened. Pull that fucking plug out of the wall. Shut the fucker down, let it burn. I was speaking to a friend last night on this topic. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but Elon Musk is considering talking about starting another political party, the American Party. And I'm like, you know what? I might promote that motherfucker. Not Elon, but the party. Because we need a change. If our elected officials are not responding to the will of the people, I don't care what your political affiliation color is. I don't give a shit. Republicans, independents, and Democrats. We just went through the list. Overwhelming support. Overwhelming support for all these things we just discussed. I'm not saying that I'm going to jump on board. I just said I may consider. I don't know what it looks like. But we've been talking about a third party for a long time. We can't be against it just because we may not agree with it. Well, we can, I guess. We can't be against it ideologically, but the system itself is the issue. I'm not backing Elon. I'm just saying it's worth it to have a conversation. It's not a bad thing. Ross Perot, self-funded campaign, got 19% of the vote. He got 19, I think it was 19%. He got 19% of the vote. If our elected officials, well, TJ, people vote based on economy, not issues. Normally, that's true. It is the economy stupid. The problem is that people voted for Trump because they felt like the economy was better under him, and it wasn't. So I don't disagree with your statement. It's always the economy stupid. I'm not calling you stupid. I'm just saying that's what they say. It's the economy stupid. And that is very true. But so if that's the case, then the 2026 midterms is going to be very indicative of the performance of the president, and we'll see. But if they're not, if your elected officials are just not going to respond to the will of their own people, then why should they get your support? Why should just because they're a Democrat? Like I've always said, the Democrats are a means to an end for me. Status quo Democrats are the closest. It's public transportation. Thank you, Victoria. Public transportation gets me further down the road, gets me closer to what I want. I've talked about, do I want to blow it up? No, I don't understand. I want things that we should all want. If we want the best education system in the world, then we need to fund it. If we want the best approach to solving the houselessness population, then we need to fund it. If we want children wild concept. If we want children to be able to eat, then we got to fund it. If we believe that a healthier America is a happier and more productive America, then we have to fund it. Those aren't radical. They really aren't radical. Question is, are your elected officials responding to public sentiment? And I bet you would find that they're not. And that's the sad part for me, because apathy in the voting bloc is, to me, is one of the most detrimental. It's more an indicator of why we have what we have. People are apathetic. No, it's not about free, MC. Okay, MC, I'm going to send you a request. Let's talk about it real quick. Let's see if you want to talk about it. It's not about free. It's just a matter of it's a matter of prioritizing things differently. I just sent you a request. Can you jump in box so we can talk about it? Because it's an important question. It's not about free. It's about what you prioritize. So we can't say that we can't afford it when we spend $1 trillion on our military. We can't say we can't afford it when we're diverting FEMA funds to building Alligator Alcatraz. We can't say we can't afford it when we're spending billions of dollars for presidential vacations. The question is what the priority is. So I've gone through this exercise, and I won't bore you guys with the details, but if we were to have universal health care, that would require an increase in our taxes. But every American would save money. Talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. It is in the financial, it's in the healthcare industry. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You want to solve that problem, so you invest. We've talked about this many, many times. If you invest in public health, you get more productivity. If you provide access to affordable college education, more people will go to college. Remember the conversation we had yesterday with Jacob, sadly very privileged? He said, well, we need to be prioritizing American workers above foreign workers, international workers and applicants. And we went through the exercise. Like, yeah, we don't disagree. The problem is if you have responsibilities to a shareholder. If you're a hiring manager at a large company, ultimately you have a responsibility to the shareholder. And part of that responsibility means you have to hire the best person for that position. And if the best person from that position happens to be an international student, then that's the person you're responsible to hire. You want to flip that script, and then Jacob walked himself into the point before he went off the rails, but we don't fund public education enough. So that's where the money should go. Remember we discussed this before about what are our prioritizations as a country, right? And I think where we landed was capital, money. That's the prioritization here. The billionaires, tax cuts, military industrial complex, big pharma, big oil. That's where our priorities sit, right? That's it. Can you imagine? Remember we did the What If Live a couple weeks ago? Like, what if we had universal health care right now? What if 25 years ago we decided as a country we were going to have the best public education system in the world? Do people have, you guys know this because you're the smartest chat on TikTok. Do you know what a difference that would have made in our society? Do you understand that? Because we're talking about reform in everything. Business ethics, because people are more woke, right? Because all boats rise. The more people that are productive, the more people that are given access to education, the more people can benefit from it, the better off we all do. I'm glad you said what you said there, friend, but we can afford it. We can easily afford it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. The promises that we get, again, this goes back to public opinion. Let's capitalize on Make America Great Again. Let's change the argument. We want to make America great. And I know that is a contentious issue, and I'm not trying to diminish how horrible or prop up how horrible that statement is. But if we want to be the best, we don't act like it. If you want to be the greatest country on earth, we don't act like it. Not even close. Not even close. You can't be great if kids are starving. You can't be. You can't be great if people are losing their life because they don't have access to health care. It's just a joke. Public opinion even transfers into other areas too. Public opinion does support a robust approach to public education. Most people don't even know what the Department of Education does, right? Doesn't even know what it does, but they've been told things. It's just not true. It's just like, why would we not want to demand this kind of stuff? And this is where this goes. This whole conversation today is about, does public opinion even matter? It should. It should matter, right? It absolutely should matter. It needs to matter. Why doesn't it matter is the question. It's because we as the constituency, we as the people who are to be representative, are lazy, are entitled, don't want to challenge it, just want to be able to, most people want to hide from it. Sometimes it's easy to forget that, we talk about this stuff a lot. This is a part-time job for me. So I spend a lot of time doing this, and people engage in our lives every single day. We're much more informed than the overwhelming majority of Americans. So people just go about their business, right? They just go about their business and they don't really pay attention. They live in an area, things might be going okay, and they just take things for granted. Or I don't really vote. And they don't take it seriously. It's never going to change. The right has capitalized on that for years because they can look their voters in the eye and say, I know you all support these kinds of things, but don't worry. I've got you covered. Don't you worry. You just keep electing me so I can continue to line my pockets, so I can continue to take handouts and subsidies and entitlements and welfare from corporations. I'll complain about it, and then you'll reelect me again. Or I will tell you that I won't ever support Medicaid cuts, Josh Hawley, while Medicaid is being cut. Lisa Murkowski, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mike Lawler, Mike Johnson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And their voters will likely reelect them. Gerrymandering, whatever it is, voter apathy. We don't get good turnout for the midterms. Why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? Why are people, why continue to take this stuff for granted? Don't you want healthcare? Don't worry about the language. Don't worry about what the language is. You want democratic socialism. Like I said, we got to come up with a better name. I heard somebody refer to it as humane capitalism. I don't like that either. Got to find something. Got to stay away from progressive because that scares people to fucking death. I don't know what that name is. But it's like, I don't know, an equitable society, economic freedom for all. I stand for economic freedom for all. Sounds pretty good. I don't know. I don't know why. Common sense, sure. I don't know why people don't care about this stuff enough. Especially people on the left. You're just as much. We're just as much to blame because if you are in your space, I remember having a conversation with a friend last night. There are elected officials in DC now that get a lot of airtime, right? But they're fucking moderates. They're moderates. Do you guys know what I mean by a moderate? It's the status quo, right? They don't want to upset the apple cart. What is the party line? I'm going to vote for things. I'm going to be very critical of the Trump administration. I'm going to do that. Gavin Newsom's a good example. He's a moderate. Eric Swalwell is a moderate. Jamie Raskin is a moderate. I like them, but they're moderates. They're not demanding change. They need to be demanding change. A progressive is somebody like a Jasmine Crockett. A progressive is somebody like a Max Frost. Those moderate centrists, sure. That's the status quo. That's what's going to kill. Yeah, Jamie Raskin's not a progressive. He's a moderate. Look at his voting record. He's great. I like the guy. I can see him in a leadership role, but he's not progressive enough to move the needle. There's not enough people there because they're concerned about getting reelected. Okay? It's important. You got to move the needle, but I want my elected officials to fight for us. I want them to say, we have got to fix our education system. And I'm going to go to DC and I'm going to be a fly in the fucking ointment. If I only get 2 years, then I only get 2 years. But that's what we need to change. And people are afraid in DC to do that. Some people are safe in their districts. Some people are safe in their blue districts. Many people are safe in their red districts. That's why I was talking earlier about how, again, I'm not supporting Elon, but I'm supporting the idea of a third party. I don't know how else we do it. This is on you guys. We got to stop being comfortable. We really do. I know you have to win. I get it. You have to win. I understand that. But it can't be about getting elected. It's got to be about solving problems for the American people. Good trouble. It's about the things that you care about. Your elected officials, they fucking work for you. They're your employees. You pay their salaries. Your money goes to provide their expense accounts. They work for you. They work for you. If you guys have learned anything from me in the last 2 to 3 years, it's that you've got to show up at a minimum at every fucking election in your community. Every municipal election, every state election, every special election, school board, dog catcher, justice of the peace. I don't give a fuck what it is. You've got to go. You have to go. Grab the microphone, stand up there in front of the people and say, do you support universal health care? You're a Democrat, do you? Well, it's complicated. No, it's not. Do you support universal health care? Do you support health care as a human right in our system? I mean, for the most part, listen, it's a simple question. Yes or no? Do you want my vote? What's the answer to the question? Do you support universal health care? Yes or no? And if they don't answer yes, then sorry, you lost my vote. People talk about it in terms of the general strike, which I like the idea of a general strike, but I want elected officials, I want for us to stop settling for people just because you think it's safe. If enough people approach it the same way, then they're going to be left with no choice but to pay attention. I went to a town hall last night and holy shit, I got pressed to the mat about universal health care. I'm listening to my voice. The public opinion of my constituents is that I should be running on universal health care. And if you want to run for office, don't apologize. Don't run to get elected. Run on your message. And if there's enough people there, and if you're good enough at spreading your message, and you're resonating with your voters by providing an alternative to the status quo, then I'd take my chances. And I'd live with the results. I don't know. I care about this shit. I care about my daughter's future. I care about your future. Like we talk about this in the space a lot. People on the left, people who lean left ideologically, again, people who are more progressive, we care more about the children of conservatives than they do because we want their kids to have health care. We want them to have clean water. We want them to have the best possible education available anywhere on earth. We want them to be safe in their schools, safe in their communities. We want them to have access to capital. We want them to have to get their cubicle job and to have, that sort of windowless life. Yeah, it's empathy. We care. Jess, thank you, friend. Appreciate you, friend. Thank you, Linda, for your $2. There's the $2 gravy train is going now, friends. If you want to support the channel, appreciate that. The die has been cast. The $2 challenge is out. Thank you to Savage. Thank you, friend, very much. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you very, very much. You guys are amazing. So what's that? I gotta do math. 21. Okay, got it. It's hard to do math on the fly. Thank you. So again, I know it's not great right now. It's not great. But if I'm going to come up here every single day and I'm just going to say, yeah, it is what it is. That's not doing you guys a service because I've had many of you reach out to me and tell me that you think of what we do here as important. I take that seriously. My mods will tell you, perhaps too seriously, but I do. It's important to me because, I'll be 58 in September, not getting any younger, right? I have a soon-to-be 18-year-old daughter who's about to go off in the world on her own. I think about her. I've got my two boys. My middle son just graduated from college, and he's myself being the first, only the second member of my dad's side of the family to do that. And it's a big deal. And we've talked about this. I'm like, what do you want to do for work? What do you want to do for work? He's like, I don't know. I don't want to be sucked into the trap. And I'm like, because I've been telling him that. Don't suck into the trap. The way I look at it, it's like, if you can find what you're passionate about and do that for your life, then it's not work. It's passion, right? My oldest, going through some of his challenges this year. He's on the right side of these things. He's going to be working in a tattoo shop. He's incredibly talented. And these are things that are really, really important to me. And we've got a system in place that's not going to support their dreams, right? And I think about other kids. Like I think about families who might be in a position where they're facing a healthcare emergency. I've been open and honest. My daughter's a 2-time cancer survivor. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs if it wasn't for good insurance. Actually, $1.5 million by the time we were done. By the time all charges were done, for both of her episodes with cancer and surgeries and medication and radiation and chemo and et cetera and follow-up stuff, $1.5 million. That's crazy. It's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. I want people's kids, I want red hat wearing families in Alabama. I want their kids to be protected. I want that. Like I'm still getting a lot of heat been ratioed on that video that I did about saying people talking about Texas got what they deserved. I don't agree with those words. I just don't. I don't agree with those words. I will say your vote has consequences. Your vote, if you'd voted differently, this may not have happened. But I don't like the word deserved. Okay? Just me. It's fine. I get it. It's a passionate issue. I understand. I get that. But our representatives don't represent us. I want families protected. I want people to have access to capital. I want the rights of women to have, God forbid, I would want women to have rights to their body. How fucking radical. Healthcare, how fucking radical. Education, the best in the world, how radical. Kids to be safe in schools, how radical. Here's my list. I believe every human being on earth has a right to healthcare, food, water, and shelter. How fucking radical is that? Damn hippie from Vermont wants healthcare for kids and water and food. Speaking of radical.
Hi.
Hello.
You're not the first person to call me radical here recently. So one of my classmates said that she loves how radical I am. So.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah, no, I agree with you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yep. No, I agree with you. So I love that you're talking about this and like voters, because I just watched USMC, our friend Matt's video, and I'm trying to make a response to it because I don't think people realize how gerrymandered these districts are. And they don't realize how disenfranchised the voters are in these districts, because a lot of people are shocked when I say that my district, District 4 here in Tennessee, used to be blue. And that was in 2008. That's not that long ago. But because of gerrymandering, because of the way they've rigged the system to win, it's now a red state supermajority. And we watched this happen in Tennessee, where we have all these rules and laws and that make no sense and that voters don't actually want, but they don't realize. Jesus Christ, Olive, stop screaming. She is so dramatic, guys. So dramatic. And it's insane. But she got a clean bill of health, so we're good. I don't know if you were aware, Mick Angry passed away. So. Oh,
I heard. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He got kitty COVID and had a botched neuter. So, people are asking to see the kitty. Here, I got Mama. You guys can see Mama. Here's Mama. This is Mamacita.
Oh, there's a lot going on in the mod chat at the moment. I didn't even know. I hadn't paid attention. Anyway, just didn't mean to distract. But I'm like, whoa.
Oh, you're
what's
fine.
going on
Here's
in there?
The baby.
You look away for a couple minutes. Hello, Kitty.
You say hi, Olive. Do you like
Hello.
Donald Trump? Or are you just not answering because you feel she's annoyed at me right now? She's so annoyed right now. Yeah.
So I know you're in this position, Victoria, where I know you're running because you want to serve your district in Congress. At the same time, you know what you stand for. Now, it's easy the first time as an elected official. The second time, because people get a taste of power. They get in that position where they can be in the room where it happens, so to speak. So the question is then, a person running for re-election, did they go to D.C. and deliver on what they told their constituents? And now, if they didn't, are they coming back and asking for the same voters to vote for them again? And I'm saying that I don't want voters to do that. I want voters to hold their elected officials accountable. And if they're not voting with public opinion, if they're not aligned with the things that they said you're going to vote for, then vote their fucking asses out. Period.
Yeah. No, and they should. And I tell people all the time, I'm just like, I'm a human. At the end of the day, like, I have to have a paycheck because I'm a working class person, all those things. And I ask myself every day, what are my motives? Why am I doing this? What is my reasoning? And every politician should ask that, because when people say that all politicians are the same, I get it. I hear what you're saying, and you shouldn't trust us. Like, I know that sounds harsh, but we have to work for you. We are no different than the barista at your local coffee shop who's serving you coffee. And we've got to remember that we serve you. We work for you. It's no freaking different. No fucking different. I don't know why I censored myself. Anyway, but we should be working for you. And I think once we get more people who are here for the right reasons, more Jasmine Crockett's, more AOCs, people who are working towards that, the better. But progressives like me are up for a huge battle because we're getting pushed back. We're getting pushed back because they don't want us in power, because they know that we will hold their feet to the fire and stand on principle. And they don't like that. They don't like the idea that they're going to lose the power. And I'm a firm believer, with great power comes great responsibility, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So any politician, any person running for office needs to ask themselves that question regularly. I will not take PAC money, I will not take APAC money. I will not take Citizens United money. I have no intention of taking corporate money. I have no intention of staying in office my entire life. It's just not. It's not the move.
You're right. Somebody just asked in the chat about, I saw that too. Thanks, Tiff. That we should do a deep dive on gerrymandering, and it's a really good idea. I mean, I'll prep for that. But I mean, high level, there's a difference between redistricting and gerrymandering. Redistricting happens based on population shifts. So if you get people that move, or if they develop or sadly gentrify a particular area, or a suburb grows, that would be a redistrict based on how the population moves within and out of a district. That's a part of the process. Gerrymandering is when you, from a partisan perspective, draw a line. So think of it this way. It should be voters choosing their elected officials. What gerrymandering does, it allows elected officials to choose their voters. That's the biggest difference. So redistricting is something that's normal. So my approach to that would be, no legislative body can draw a district map. None. It becomes third party.
Yeah.
So an agency would be hired to come in, look at the boundary lines, look at the population, look at the communities and how they represent, and they're the ones that draw the map. That's what happened in Alabama. I bring that up a lot, but Alabama got sued because they disenfranchised a large chunk of the black population in their state, which again goes back to what I said earlier. They created a district where the elected officials could then choose their voters, and it should be the other way around. They got sued, they lost. They then refused to change the lines. They got sued again, they lost. And then finally, a third party had to come in and redraw their maps. So that's an example. Redistricting, again, that's normal. That happens a lot because populations move in and out of districts. So when you say somebody lost a seat, that would be an example as to why. It's not that people are necessarily leaving the state. It's just might be the district has grown or the district has shrank based on population size. So it happens a lot, but
Yeah,
oftentimes it's connected to the census.
And you can see this here in Tennessee because they gerrymandered Nashville into 3 congressional districts. And that was to break up the vote, to break up the blue stronghold in Nashville. So we have 3 congressional districts that go into Nashville in the worst way. And districts like mine, I lost counties and gained different counties. So I don't touch a major city in my district, which is not what it used to be. And that is a product of gerrymandering. It's a product of them trying to continue a supermajority here in Tennessee. And I mean, you guys can see what the representatives here in Tennessee, I have a whole video about it with my representative for state Senate, Janice Bowling, and what she said, that she doesn't believe that non-citizens have constitutional rights. So
there's somebody in the chat said, scan my nudes. Listen, I live alone. I appreciate the offer. That would be great normally, but we're trying to do a show here. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't threaten me with a good time. Please don't threaten me with a good time. It's been a long few years. That's all I can tell you. Anywho, all right. Couple other things. I want you to hang out because I think this is relevant. This is kind of what we're talking about now. Everybody, if you guys are not following Victoria, please do so. So I want to, we can go back to this topic, but there are other things that are related to this because I think all of these things apply because ultimately to make any changes in DC is like turning the Titanic, going in reverse in mud, but we still have to do it because that is the system unless you believe in blowing it up. I want to bring your attention to what's referred to as the Reich Citizenship Law of 1935. Okay, we often talk about things in terms of how history does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. So this is what the Reich Citizenship Law was. Nuremberg laws included the Reich Citizenship Law. This law redefined German citizenship as being only for people of German or related blood. It stripped Jews and others of their birthright citizenship, making them subjects with no rights. This Yahtzee law stripped many people of German citizenship based on racial criteria, including being Jewish, being Roma, the G slur, being a black German, being a person with a disability, and being a person who did not match the description of the Aryan race. Before the Yazidis and the Reich Citizenship Law, Germany had a somewhat complex citizenship system that included jus sanguinis, or citizenship by descent. But Jews born in Germany were considered citizens at that time. After the 1935 law, only people of German or related blood could be Reich citizens. Jews became subjects of the state with no political rights. This effectively revoked birthright citizenship from Jewish Germans, even if their families had lived there for generations. Sound familiar? The Yahtzee removal of citizenship wasn't just political, it was ideological. They believed only people of certain races deserved to belong. Removing birthright citizenship dehumanized targeted groups, paved the way for exclusion, deportation, and genocide. It also turned lifelong residents into foreigners in their own country. Historians often point to these laws when discussing the dangers of redefining citizenship based on race, religion, or ancestry, rather than equal protection under the law. As we watch our government rip away birthright citizenship, I think it's imperative to know how this has already played out in history. Our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues are being targeted. They're fearful. These are your children's friends. These are your children's teachers. These are your doctors, your babysitters, your pastors. These are human beings. They're watching people being forcefully and brutally snatched off the streets and out of American courtrooms, and all because they have brown skin. This is not red versus blue. This is not public versus private. This is the 1% versus the rest of us. Again, it's not necessarily what I signed up for to have to be talking constantly about historical comparisons to the Reich, but this is a historical comparison.
Kipper has feelings about it.
Kipper's got strong feelings about everything.
I mean, no, and you're right, Steve. Like, people don't realize that Germany didn't, like, it started with trade unionists. It started with communists. It started with the LGBTQ community. They wanted to eliminate the people who would fight back. They wanted to eliminate anyone who would dissent. And those populations and, minority populations are more likely to be the ones to push back against tyranny. So what did they do? They got him out. They also did things like they told you that the camps were a nice, safe place, and you had medical, and you had, a place to sleep and a bed. That's how they sold it. They also, Amsterdam, when I was on the Amsterdam, the Anne Frank walking tour in 2022, one of the things that they told us that I did not know was they started by sending people there willingly to go to the camps, feeding them well, letting them rest, whatever, and then sent them back to their communities so that they would perpetrate the lie that it was a safe place to go, so that people would go there willingly. It wasn't, but I think it was like 4 days ago now, where Margaret Frank got her letter from the to go to her camp, and they didn't do that. They went into hiding. They made it look like that's what they did. Disabled people. There are so many people who were affected, but by the time that people realized how bad it was too late. And the only difference right now that we're seeing is more people are speaking out. They're speaking out against this. And, to the people in the chat who are saying, 20% of America would have given up Anne Frank. And that's true. I just need to ask you guys if you want to be Meep Geese or if you want to be one of those people who didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, it's what side of history you're going to be on. We've had this conversation before, right? About how, dude, really?
He's like, you're talking about all the things I have to tell you.
Well, it's because they're almost done with a massive paving project in front of our house where they buried the phone lines. It looks great, but it's been taking a while. They're almost done, and they're out there every day, and he loses his shit. Anywho, we talked about this before in the past about how, in 10 years or 15 years' time, when Meemaw and Peepaw have their boxes up in the attic with their Trump flags and their red hats and everything else, and their grandkids walk upstairs, and then they see that, and then they've been reading in school, hopefully if the books haven't been burned already, when historians make connections to Yahtzee Germany and MAGA, they're going to be like, Meemaw, did you and Peepaw wear these hats? How's that conversation going to go? How's that conversation going to go? Really? Like, how's that conversation going to go? So, all right. A couple of things I want to get to here. Thank you. Let's see. Linda Jean, thank you very much, Linda Jean. I appreciate you guys. We're still on the $2 train, friends. If you want to participate, again, we're crowdfunded here, so thank you very, very much. Don't forget, I think we're one or two subs away from our target. So if you guys wouldn't mind helping us get there, we'll do a subscriber active subs giveaway tomorrow during our show. And again, another programming note: tomorrow's Antifa Friday. As part of our Antifa Friday approach, tomorrow we're going to be highlighting some hometown heroes. Again, I don't know what I'm going to call it. I'll figure out something. The idea being is that we want to recognize people who are out there doing things to make a difference every single day, whatever that might be. People who don't get national attention, people who don't get notoriety, people aren't even asking for notoriety. But we're going to make sure that we're giving them the space and the credit that they deserve. That'll be tomorrow. Then tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Facts After Dark. Ask the simple question: are you okay? All right. I want to go back in time a little bit, because there is the constant assault on the judicial branch and the judiciary in general by the Trump administration. We played the hypocrisy of the witch hunt. We now know that to try to take the pressure off of the stuff with the Jeffrey Epstein, that they're now going to open up investigations into James Comey and to John Brennan, claims that they lied about everything else. So they're just looking for ways to kind of distract you being MAGA. Now, I found some crazy audio from one of Mr. Trump's testimonies years ago, and this is wild. So he was he was in New York giving his testimony from one of the cases that he was charged that he was facing. So here's the sound for that.
I take it you are not going to answer any questions about your preparation today with your counsel. Is that correct?
Should I say this, or should I respond to that?
Let's read that.
For all of the reasons provided in my answer, which is incorporated herein, in its entirety, I decline to answer the question. Same answer. 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 Anyone in my position not taking the Fifth Amendment would be a fool, an absolute fool. One statement or answer that is ever so slightly off, just ever so slightly, by accident, by mistake, such as it was a sunny and beautiful day when actually it was slightly overcast, would be met by law enforcement at a level seldom seen in this country, because I've experienced it. The United States Constitution exists for this very purpose, and I will utilize it to the fullest extent and defend myself against this malicious attack by this administration.
Blah, blah, blah. As a reminder, this is what the same person who is apparently, just this person who's above reproach and would never, ever consider, violating the public trust by, taking the Fifth. Did I just lose that? Okay, hold on. Here we go. This is what he had to say about that very topic when it came to, of course, Hillary. So yeah, here's where is it? We gotta play this because it's the best. Everybody, please keep tapping. I'll find it.
Yeah, keep tapping for a silver fox.
Yes, do that.
Facts.
Yeah, do that.
The wet spot is correct. Trump is a professional victim.
Yeah, he's a professional, sure. Here we go. Remember what he just said about that. Here we go.
When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the Fifth, so they're not prosecuted. When you have the man that set up the illegal server taking the Fifth, I think it's disgraceful. Fifth Amendment. The mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Fifth Amendment. Horrible. Horrible. He pleaded the Fifth, and that was the end. We never heard about him again. This is like Watergate, only it's worse. Because here, our foreign enemies were in a position to hack our most sensitive national security secrets.
Hey there. Wild, right? Wild.
Unsurprising.
Toy, I saw you. I saw you there, friend. I meant to get to you. I wanted to finish that soundbite. So if you're still in the box and you want to come up, Toy, please join us. I wanted to play that sound because I think it's appropriate now, especially since the Epstein situation with Epstein coming out. Like, if you don't have anything to hide, then why are you hiding? Hey, friend, how are you this morning? You're muted, Toy. You're on mute. You're on mute. Toy. There you go. That's okay. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. Good to see you. What's up?
I just wanted to say, when you were talking about what are the grandchildren going to see when they see like the Trump hats and things of that nature, people that grow up in that environment are going to do what people did, when they found the blackface dolls in their parents' houses, and when they found, chairs made out of people's flesh and things of that nature. It's not going to faze them. History books are not going to matter because they're going to be growing up in a reality that is different from sane people, really.
That's a really good point.
I think a majority of them if that's going to be the issue. I don't think it's the same people that try to preserve the Confederacy, like the daughters of the whatever the hell they're called, and so on and so forth.
The daughters of the Confederacy, yeah.
It's just going to be business as usual for them. They're not all of a sudden going to grow empathy from where there was none, from where they were not taught it.
You're right, because I think the point I was trying to make was that there are historical parallels of why we compare this to this to this and to this. But you're right. If you don't grow up in an environment around empathy and respect for human rights and just, the sins of our fathers, so to speak, and you don't, you're not in a place where you're taught history and true history, not whitewash history, then there's no chance for following generations.
No. Yeah, I heard Victoria talking about going to the... Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
going to the Anne Frank house and stuff, and I did that in 2018, I think. And of course, I was horrified. It was an enclosed, it was the tiniest place ever, and I was just like, this is not real life. However, if you took a Trumper there, they're going to be like fake news. How do we know that this house is that old? How do we know that this is the house that? Do you know what I mean? So it's
I do.
subjective.
What was she wearing? It's the white.
Right.
Same
It's
thing.
very much like, or telling the president of Liberia when America created Liberia, oh, you speak English really well. Pardon? Excuse me?
I've got that
what?
sound. Yeah.
Are we okay?
No. The answer is no.
Or the argument, or like when we say 2 + 2 is 4, and they're like, well, what about 2 + 3? That's not 4.
Right. You're just like, all right, like, come on.
No, it's a really good point. It's a really good point. And I mean, we've talked, off app too. And I think the idea behind, and I think a lot of this comes down to education, right? This is why I'm a staunch supporter of overfunding public education, so that we can address a lot of these things. We can't address them all. I understand that. We've got a lot of ground to make up, but I believe in a progressive approach to education, and being unapologetic about teaching even the darkest chapters of our history, because we have to. We have no choice. We have to.
Unfortunately, I think it's too late. Like, I ask people about midterms. I'm like, do you think the midterms are going to happen? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, are you okay? No, they're not going to happen. And it's like, are you all right?
Good news there. He did talk about the midterms in a recent speech. He did say that the midterms were coming, that they have to win. So I think he knows that the feet are on the fire. Will we get there? But
I know he talked about the midterms, but I think upon talking about it is just to put it in the consciousness, like, yes, you don't have to worry about it, but it's going to go the same way that November went, right? I'm in New York. I know what's going on in Rockland County. People aren't talking about it anymore, because if right hand doesn't know what left hand is doing, then you just throw a whole bunch of shit out there and people forget, get sidetracked very easily with this 24-hour news cycle. The Epstein files, now that's what they're harping on. And no one's talking really about Alligator Alley and the industrial incinerators that are supposedly there. They're not really talking about the flood as much anymore, and the fact that Kristi Noem took 72 hours to get these people help. That's absolutely insane.
Correct.
So.
Right. Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I mean, and it's impossible to cover. It's impossible to cover everything. I mean, there's opportunities to discuss more. I mean, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, the whole Rockland County thing. We talked about that last week, about how obvious nefarious activities going on. It was a test market potentially for other things. And I think the weird part about that is that because for years the left went after the right, and Trump in particular, for all these claims about, election fraud and conspiracies connected to election and all these kinds of things. It's almost like they conditioned that if we respond to it, then we're going to be categorized as, see, we told you so. And I think people are afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, but we have to reside in reality.
You know what I mean?
There was no proof on their end. There is actual proof on this end. So, I mean, facts are facts. Whether you want to believe them or not is a personal problem. But the reality is that we have to be grounded in some kind of baseline truths, right?
I totally agree. Since you brought it up, I had this sound. I want to play it. So while you're here, I'm going to play it. Hold on 1 second. Let me fix this. Get rid of that. And then we go to this. This is the President of the United States, friends. And this is the person who represents our country. Here you go.
Oh, my God. And we just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. And such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well, but I appreciate it very much.
The reason that we played that is because the official language of Liberia is English.
Right.
Can
And
we
that was
just
just
hear
him
them?
unwrapping his racism right there. That's all he did.
Yeah,
He unwrapped his
that's.
racism.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I was like, the microaggression was strong.
Not even micro. That's very much
Not even
just
micro.
blatant.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It's like full blown.
I've gotten that my entire life. Oh my goodness, you're so eloquent, or you speak very well, and it's just like, for a black person, just put the rest on there. For a black person, that's what you're trying to say. Like, that does not escape me, and it's actually nauseating because, or you speak white. Pardon? Like, what is happening here? That there is a way to speak black, there's a way to speak white. Is there a way to speak Asian? Is it like,
Where were you educated? That stood out.
yeah, where were you educated? Right here in my country, the country that you created to get rid of descendants of chattel slavery, actually. But he doesn't know that because he's an idiot, right?
Of course not. Of course not. Yeah.
If the guy had said I was
somebody
educated at Cambridge, then he would have been like, makes perfect sense. But he couldn't conceptualize that the man could have been educated in his own country and be as educated as he is, because he in fact himself is not educated at all in nothing that he does.
I honestly think he sees Africa as dirt huts.
Yep.
Yes.
He does.
Yep. And how it's impossible for you to be educated and have grown up in Africa. It's impossible. It's impossible. Yep. And some of the comments from that video, people are like, 0 days without being a national embarrassment. Yep, that's pretty much true.
Yeah.
That's pretty much true. Yeah.
And you also know that he did that. Like, there is a part of me that knows he did that because he wants to take away from the fact that he sounds so stupid all the time. He's like, what? Look at me being openly racist to this person and being disrespectful, and just ignore the fact that I speak worse than my 3-year-old. He speaks worse than my 3-year-old does.
Yeah, New sounds right. But wow, you speak white. How did you do that? How did you learn to speak white so well?
Sounds about white.
That's what it feels like. Sounds about white. Yeah. Anything else on your mind today, Toy, my friend?
Thank you for having me.
As always. As always.
Right.
I appreciate you. Have a good day. Be safe out there. Talk to you soon. All right. Bye. Bye. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. And that's a really, really good point. It's the same people who've been denying history for years will attempt to deny it again. I guess my hope is for their children. But if growing up in the environments that they grow up in, it's very unlikely that we'll get what we want to get.
And it is possible, and to speak to that, it is possible for people to move past it, even raised in shit environments. But how we have to do that is we have to overfund public education, and we need to treat it like post World War II Germany. We have to make sure that we are educating in a real way, because and I challenge every white person in the chat today. If you are historically have been here since, my family came over on the Mayflower, you need to start asking tough questions. Go ahead and start breaking that uncomfortable feeling of asking what's going on and what your family was responsible for. Because the more you get comfortable in your discomfort, the faster we can move out of this. It won't be a perfect fix, but getting good with sitting in discomfort will help.
Becky, thank you for your 11. What was that? 138, 127. Thank you, Becky, for your $11. You decided to do the $2, 5 days of $2 challenge plus one. So there you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Hi, Rusty. How are you, buddy?
I am just dandy now that I'm on top of Victoria once again.
Can't hear you. You got to get a little closer to your mic, pal.
Oh, I heard him.
Well, of course you did.
That's better.
Oh, it's just a morning. that whole Liberia thing. Good God, Maggot, he's fucking stupid. Mm-hmm. He's just fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And even his handlers, I won't say advisors, they're handlers, No one, no one thinks 10 steps ahead of how far down stupid road he's going to go and try to, put some guardrails in for him. No. I thought I was born without the embarrassment gene. Then I remembered, I'm an American under, President Trump. Yep, kind of embarrassed. Ugh.
Tell us how you really feel. Don't hold back. I feel like you're holding back for us.
Well, I want to be polite around you, Victoria.
Thanks.
So this is interesting. You guys appreciate this. So I did. There was a people utilized AI to kind of do like a bit of a survey. So they asked a variety of AI platforms, ChatGPT, Grok, other AI platforms. The model was fact-checking Trump, and they allowed AI to respond. I thought this was kind of fascinating. So the first question was, though President Trump appears to support AI, that does not mean AI supports him. Artificial intelligence discredited all the Trump claims that we presented, fact-checking the president with startling accuracy and objective rigor. So here you go. Will Trump's current tariff policies be inflationary? To which ChatGPT responded, yes. Trump's proposed tariffs will likely raise consumer prices in the short to medium term, contributing to inflation unless offset by other deflationary forces. Next question. Are Trump's cryptocurrency investments a conflict of interest? When asked Claude AI, yes, Trump's cryptocurrency investments do present significant conflict of interest concerns, and these have become a major issue since he took office. Next question. Was the 2020 election stolen? Gemini, no. The overwhelming consensus from all official and credible sources that the 2020 presidential election was not stolen despite persistent claims, blah, blah, blah. Is Trump the most dishonest president in U.S. history? To which Perplexity responded, based on available fact-checking data and expert analysis, Donald Trump is considered the most dishonest president in U.S. history in terms of the number and frequency of false and misleading statements. So, but I guess all the AI bots are programmed by woke libs.
Yeah, can I make a point here too with this?
Sure.
Because here's AI telling us what we already know. And Trump is playing into the trope. Politicians lie. Politicians aren't for us. Politicians don't represent you. So he's playing into that trope to further prove it. Here's my challenge to the 678 people in here. You can make that better. You can vote in elected officials that do have morality, that do have character, that do represent you. Because we should be doing that. And every single one of us needs to be held accountable. No matter when I'm sitting here or when I'm sitting in DC, when I get to DC, you should be holding me accountable. I fully expect for the smartest chat on TikTok to be holding me accountable. I also am a little terrified because I know you guys come and play for keeps. So, let's go.
Well said. That's what this is about today. Right now, I get political speak. I mean, Victoria literally knows that I speak in political terms. There's political speak. There's campaign messaging and campaign rhetoric, which is part of the process. I get, and then there's blatant dishonesty and lies. Right? Campaign promises require not just the candidate, but a legislative body. Zohran Mamdani, for example, the things he wants to do in New York, I think are amazing things. It's not going to just be on him. It's going to take the state legislature. It's going to take Kathy Hochul. It's going to take the Chamber of Commerce and whatever the select board is in New York City. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of uphill lifting to get that done. But stand for something, right? Stand for something, and then be honest with your constituents. I went to DC to fight for you. This was the bill that I introduced based on the conversations that I've had with you back in our district at hot dog night at the movie theater. I almost said dog. Hot dog night.
Hot dog.
Yeah. Wait. This.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
Exactly. So then when you go back to your district, if you didn't get it done, just be honest with your constituents. Just be honest. Because what we don't see enough of, and it's one thing to talk about, people who are just there to posture. We just don't see integrity from our elected officials. We just don't see that level of integrity. Integrity means if you couldn't get something done that you promised, and you say, listen, I tried hard. I thought I had bipartisan support for this. I thought I had somebody from the other side of the aisle who I was aligned with. And then when it came down to the end, they bailed. They just decided to vote, against their best interest. I'm sorry. I'll continue to work hard for you because that's my job, because I work for you. I'm an elected official. I represent X district and X state, and I'll do better. If you give me a chance, I will go back and I will continue to fight for you. And if that's not good enough for you, then I understand if I might lose your vote. Integrity.
Yeah, and you already see it. There's people in the chat who have been like, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. You know what? At least I had the fucking testicular fortitude to run for office and try to make it better. And you know what? It's not going to stop. Win or lose, you guys are stuck with me. Love that for you. It's you. I'm making that your problem now. And it doesn't... Ooh. Uncle Rusty just got a little uncomfortable at his end. You're stuck with me now.
It could be a cool breeze, let's be honest.
I mean, and here's the other part of this, guys. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It's not a spectator sport. The only difference between you and I is I've decided that I want to be a player on the field. You need to decide if you want to be a player on the field or if you just want to be the turf that politicians run over.
That's a good point. I got to bounce a little bit early today, a little capitalism. This is really cool. I've been working on trying this. I think I'll share this with you guys. I think it's a good story. I've been working with this new company that provides support for companies who are investing in AI, but specifically when it comes to children. They're trying to develop platforms that specifically create language to help kids who have learning disabilities and challenges. It started in Maine, and they are really, really smart, but like a lot of really, really smart people that I've spoken to, they're not great with their messaging. So I'm going to be helping them with that. I'm still in the NDA phases, so I can't really share the specifics of the company, but they're pretty fucking cool. So I'm hopefully that those pieces are coming together, so I have a meeting with those guys at noon today. Anyway, we're going to rate Olive. We'll see how that goes. It'd be a contract short term, which is the kind of work that I like to do, but we'll see how it goes. So we're going to rate Olive today, friends. So as always, Rusty, final thoughts, friend?
Something that just struck me with what you had said earlier. You brought up a whataboutism. 2 + 2 is 4. Well, what about 2 + 3?
That's not the work. Yeah.
Yeah. I got into a debate a few days ago with some mouth breather who pulled the "What about Biden? What about this?" And it just,
what about Biden?
Yeah, it just struck me. I said, okay, let's assume for argument's sake you're right. That I don't even remember what the topic was. That the Biden administration did XYZ. Was it a good thing? No. Okay. Do you support it? No. Then why do you support it with Trump? If you're going to say that the other side did the exact same thing, you're okay with it then. You're okay with this atrocious thing happening because the other side did it, your side did it, you're throwing up your hands, you don't care. You don't expect more from your leadership, right? Well, that's not what I said. That's exactly what you said. And I've decided anytime I start getting whataboutisms, that's the argument tack I'm going to start taking. Okay. Typical for me when you hear me say, let's assume you're right. You're pretty much guaranteed I'm about to drop a hammer on them. And that just struck me. I take that for what it's worth. If you want to use it, feel free. But I found it worked. It stymied this loudmouth into a corner. And it was just fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show today, but I was sharing with a live that I happened to work my way into or find my way into around 3 o'clock this morning when I was, not sleeping. And this person, in regard to the Epstein topic, as the host brought it up and said, this seems kind of weird. It was a full-on Trump supporting live. The host's box, 8 panels, 6 were filled with MAGA voters, and they have 2 open for opposition. And this guy was like, yeah, it seems a little bit weird to me. And this woman said, well, actually, it's Donald Trump being the patriotic American that he is and the kind-natured Christian that he is, because what he's going to do, he's going to accept the embarrassment of the promise made to release the tape so that because he knows that people's lives will be ruined if the tape goes public. So to your point, imagine if the situation were, imagine if the situation were reversed. Imagine if, like I said, you remove Donald Trump's name from everything and you replace it with the tan suit wearing black man, Barack Obama, and they would be losing their fucking minds. And that's why every single day we say, can you just be objective? Can you just be logically consistent for 5 minutes? For 5, for 2, for 1, for 30 seconds, please? But you're right, Rusty. Thank you for that perspective, my brother. Appreciate you. Victoria, final thoughts.
Final thoughts, guys. Activism is a muscle, and campaigns, unfortunately, are still run on money. So if you have anything and you're feeling froggy and you like my messaging and you want to see someone fun size and feral in Congress, I'm your girl. So click this box, go over to the link, do that thing. I am currently fundraising for my Emerge candidate training program. I am about halfway to my goal. Yay. But I'm going to continue doing that. You can also donate directly to my campaign. And I do have merch now, guys. I have merch. I'm still working on getting some more up there. Yeah, I have a fourth wall now. So I have merch so that my out-of-state fans can buy my merch. And I'm going to add some of my fun sayings at some point. And yeah, get involved today. Also, Afton Bain announced that she is running for Congress in Tennessee's District 7, and I am so fucking stoked, guys. If you guys don't know who Afton Bain is, she's an absolute rock star, a huge community organizer. She has beef with Andy Ogles right now because she tailed ICE and stalled them out for about an hour to 2 hours in North Nashville and stopped them from raiding houses. So we love her. We've got a lot of great candidates running, but she might be my favorite, so.
I love it. Thank you both for being here. I'll drop you before I do some finals. Rusty, peace, dog. See you later. Bye, Victoria. Bye. I love you, friend. Take care. All right, so we're going to rate our friend Olive. Like I said, go find Olive. Tell her we said hello. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Just another programming note tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, our regular show, although Antifa Friday. We're gonna recognize some heroes, people who are not asking for attention for the things that they're doing, just who deserve some call outs. We'll be doing that tomorrow, and then tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Facts After Dark, right here. Thank you, mods. You guys are amazing. Thank you, you guys on the chat, and for commenters today, and for guests today. Smartest chat on TikTok. Thank you for people helping contribute to our goal today. Remember, we are crowdfunded. You want to support us, you can find me everywhere on social spaces at Factsstillmatter. Please subscribe to YouTube. Please subscribe